nervous?
As a motherfucker?
No. We've been talking all day. We're used to it now.
It just feels weird when the mic gets turned on, right?
Yeah, it can feel weird. You know, it can feel. What's weird for me is we've been hanging out all day. So, like, I'm like, I hope that we didn't, like, exhaust our conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Run out of stuff to talk about.
Exactly. So, well, dude, I'm glad you came, man. It's an honor for me for you to put the effort to fly here to do this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Monday for me. It's my day off, so.
Oh, well, that doesn't. It kind of takes away how
so there was
special
nothing.
it was.
Yeah, like I didn't really have anything going on today,
Yeah.
so.
It works out well then. Well, you know, like I said, that's awesome that, you know, you came through and, yeah, being able to do the podcast live. I mean, we've met each other briefly in passing, like different events and stuff. I think just Sturgis.
Sturgis, maybe Tennessee.
I haven't been to Tennessee.
Oh. Probably just Sturgis.
Just Sturgis, yeah. But, yeah, fuck, man. You killed it last year, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good year for
Everybody
us.
had a good year, right?
I did, so I'm not complaining. So, yeah, it's been a good year. I mean, business is good, racing's good, you know, life's good for me.
So, for all you guys listening, like Tony actually did really well in the BRL GP class.
Pro stock
class. GP is the big boys, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that's crazy is, like, you were doing a lot of flat tracking, and you kind of had a background in racing in that kind of place. What else? I can't remember from the first podcast what other racing you did, or if that was kind of the extent of it, or did you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done a lot of racing my whole life. I mean, I used to race a lot of motocross and desert racing. And then that's why, like, the transition to flat track was such an easy one, because it was like kind of this like easy way to like do two things that I really love, which was motocross and Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
Like, then I could kind of do both. Like, so the hooligan stuff was like an easy transition for me. And then.
But you did pretty well in that. You made it all the way up to the X Games.
I made X Games in 2018. You know, and have done really well. Had a ton of fun with that stuff. And, you know, and then that kind of leads up to Bagger Racing League.
So what was like, you'd already built a bagger, and everybody, like, you had built one of the nicest, to me, one of the coolest, like, baggers, which was like, I know this, like, saying it now, it feels like everybody's tried to do this, but like an FXR-esque bagger, right? But you did it on the red frame. It was a Road King, right? And it was just perfectly done. You know what I'm saying? And then that one was dope. Now it seems like that's kind of become a pretty decent sized trend, where a lot of people are kind of going that way. And you know, not to say it's bad for them to do it, but you'd already kind of built a bagger before, so you kind of knew what you were fucking with. Did you solely want to race a bagger, or did you think about racing any of the other classes or building a bike for some of the other classes?
No, I think when they kind of announced Bagger Racing League, yeah, I had my Sportster that I raced flat track on that I technically could have raced at the Bagger Racing League, but I don't know. Bagger was what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to race a bagger, because it's a bagger. You know what I mean? Like, who road races a Harley Davidson, you know, road glide? You know what I mean? Like, it's such a
large.
I mean, it's just not what that bike's built for. So it's kind of the challenge behind it that I think is so cool. Like, I mean, the Sportster is, you know, just that. It's kind of Harley's, you know, sport version of their model. So, like, the bagger is the furthest thing from a road race bike. So the challenge, that's what I wanted to do. It was bagger or nothing for me.
Yeah, it seemed like that was, I mean, definitely the most attention was getting forced at that. I mean, Saddleman built that first bike for the first King of the Baggers. It didn't do well at the King of the Baggers that year.
Yeah.
But it was like,
the build was amazing.
It was the first time we had actually seen like a pure track mentality race version of a road glide or a touring bagger for anything. You know what I mean? So it took the air quotes performance to another level.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Like, there's definitely a big difference between like your performance bagger that you're going to go ride to Sturgis on versus the track version.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like some dudes are riding or racing their street versions, but there's a level up.
There's always a level up,
but that's kind of how it works. I mean, we always have to level up somehow, and then we run out of level ups, and then we move on to the next trend.
True.
And we start all over, and everybody starts to scramble and figure out what's cool, and then someone levels up, and then we start all over.
Yeah, that is a good progression of how it works. It seems like maybe that Saddleman bike gave a lot of people I guess, do you think that Saddleman bike gave you a direction to take your build whenever you were doing that? Like, okay, they kind of figured out some things. Let's see, did it make sense to do that or not? Like hollowing out the whole battery area, things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When I started, back in January or February when they announced they were doing BRL this year.
Yeah.
And I decided I was going to do it. The Saddleman bike, the Alloy Art bike, and the Speed Merchant bike were like the three that basically, like, legit what I did is I printed off photos of those three bikes and hung them in my work bay. Like, and those three bikes were like where I drew the inspiration from, because there were things on each of those three bikes that I really liked. So I kind of took all those things and tried to put them into my bike.
Yeah.
Did
you ever get a chance to ride your bagger, like, prior to doing the stuff that you did to it, like to see, like, as you started making these modifications, to see as they started to feel different on the bike? Or
no, so my bike started life as a 2017 Road King Police that had, like, I don't know, 15,000 miles on it. I never rode it
at all.
At all.
But you've ridden other baggers.
Yeah. I mean, and it was basically a bone stock motorcycle, and I pushed it in the shop and stripped it down to the frame. Like, so it wasn't like a performance bagger that I had been kind of building and then converted to a race bike. Like, it just went from a stock police bike to what it is today.
And all out, yeah.
So
what do you think I'm trying not to get too far ahead, and that way we don't have to jump back into it, because you said something, we were sitting on the stairs, it was pretty awesome. I guess I'll say it's like, you rode the bike that you built. You said you ripped it from, like, some of the canyons on that little ride that they did for the BRL. Is that what it was?
No, I actually, I didn't get invited on the BRL ride. So, no, it wasn't that one. I wasn't cool enough to get an invite there. But I rode out to the
Jeff's show
in Deadwood. So I rode from, our house that we had in Piedmont, and then rode up, like, Deadwood Canyon or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And just rode that canyon on that bike, and, like, the bike was, like, hands down, like, the funnest Harley I've ever ridden on the street.
For real.
Like, and I said that, like, the day of the race, like, the bike was, like, amazing. Like, it didn't even feel like a Harley to me. Like, that's how good it was. And as I'm riding it through Deadwood Canyon, I'm just like, I need to be able to replicate this motorcycle in a street legal version and sell it so that someone else can experience like what I was feeling in that canyon that day.
What do you think is you think it's possible, though, to get that kind of feeling on a street bike, or is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
is it a weight thing? Like,
I
the
think
bike?
A lot of it is weight.
Yeah.
Weight, and yeah, that's probably the biggest thing.
I would have to say that, like, even though everybody's running the 17s because you can get better tire selections, it looks like weird. When, like, a donk loses the wheels and they have to put their other wheels back on? Like, the donks of fucking lifted up cars? That's what it reminds me of, just having these two little bitty wheels running down the street.
Like, the back wheel.
Can't really tell.
Yeah, like, the back wheel's not that big a deal, but the front wheel just looks too small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when you're used to looking at all these performance, street performance baggers that, are
They got a
running
balance.
19.
Yeah.
These 19-inch wheels or 21s, or even just being used to seeing like big wheel stuff like 23 and 26 and whatever.
Yeah.
And then you see this 17-inch wheel. It just, to me, it still looks funky too. Like, and when I started building the bike, thinking that like, I'm going to use this bike as my show bike. And so I want to give it style as well as performance. And that front wheel was a hard one for me. Cause like just looking at the bike, that front wheel just, I don't know.
Too small.
It just doesn't do it for me.
You think it would feel that much different to run a 19? It's just, or I know it's a tire selection.
I think a lot of it is the tire.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, so the wheels that I'm running on that bike, the wheel with the tire mounted on it are lighter than just like your typical Dunlop American Elite tire that you would run.
Wow.
Not even the wheel, just the tire. Damn. Like, so, I mean, it's a lot of weight.
Damn.
You know, a big weight difference. So, you know,
that's got to be factoring into that feeling.
Yeah. I mean, the bike just wanted to like just lay into the corners and so smooth and just like.
How did you get the experience that you needed to be able to even run? When did you do your licensing for the BRL and the class that you were in?
So I had to run. So I had to go to Willow Springs.
That's right. You did say that. Yeah.
And that was kind of a shit show weekend too, because like we weren't getting a ton of information from BRL other than we needed to get a license, and I kind of put it off, and then one of the other racers came to me and they're like, "Hey, have you got your license yet?" I'm like, "No, but it's only like first weekend of May or something or whatever it was at the time." He's like, "Yeah, but there's a an event this weekend that you can get your license at, and that's your last opportunity before
the actual
race in June." I'm like, "Well, shit." So like, literally, I had to like pack the trailer, go to Willow Springs that night to be there in the morning to get my license.
Would you just take one of the other bikes?
I took my Road King with the red frame.
Yeah.
And I'm like calling it was ARMA, was the organization that I got my license through. And they have like requirements on the bike, like safety requirements that bike didn't have.
Yeah.
Because it was never a race bike, you know? And one of the big ones is you have to run a belly pan, like a catch pan. And they're like, "Yeah, you got to have a belly pan or you can't get on the track." They're like, "Well, just get a turkey pan at the grocery store and zip tie it to the bottom." And I was like, "Well, that's ghetto, you know?" But what I ended up doing was just as ghetto. But I stopped at Home Depot and I bought just some sheet metal for like your ducting.
Yeah.
And I just like cut it and shaped it and riveted it to the bottom of my frame. Like the morning of the class, like class started at 8:00 that day. I drove through the night to get there. Class started at 8 and I'm like laying on the ground in the pits at like 6 a.m. trying to,
figure that out.
I was drilling my drain plugs to safety wire them.
Wow.
My axles, like trying to get this makeshift belly pan on.
Yeah, they had to do that, and then they had to put like a guard for the chain and shit like that too.
Yeah, chain guard, and the guys at ARMA, they kind of let me slide a little bit on the class day with some of the requirements. They're like, get a belly pan and safety wire a few of these important pieces.
Yeah.
And then, so I got my license on Friday. Like the class was like 12 hours long. Like it was all day. And they're like, but then you have tonight before you race tomorrow. Get this, and this done. So I got a few things done. They let me take the class. I got my license on Friday. I raced the next day on Saturday. I raced 2 classes out there, which I really wasn't racing that day. I was just getting
out there,
getting a feel for the track. So, but it worked. I mean, but I literally was sitting there Thursday night thinking, shit, I guess I got to like leave right now to get there in the morning.
Wow. That's like 600 miles, 700?
Yeah.
Is there a straight shot to get to Willow Springs? You have to go to like Blythe and all that shit, huh?
I got to go through Blythe. Yeah.
That's right. Now that first, there was a lot of hype surrounding that first one at Chuckwalla, right? They had the drones going like we were talking about earlier. There was just so much footage from that track that the hype was like big.
Yeah.
But
and then it just went silent.
It did. It kind of went silent because they, the amount of time between that and the next race, which is literally like, when was that first race? It was in
June, like
the very big. No, it was at the end of May. What did?
It was like the.
No, that's right. We'd already got back from our trip, so it was like mid-June.
It was like June. I think it was June 10th or something like
that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were thinking about going to it, but it's like I had just got back from Maine, so it had been like come back from Maine, pull my shit off the bike, and then literally jump back on it and go all the way to, Salt Lake and shit like that. So
yeah,
but yeah, you had 6 months basically of nothing new to really kind of report or promote to kind of keep that hype going. And then, of course, like anytime you're going to do something outside in the desert in the middle of the summer, it's going to be hot out there. How bad was it at the VRL that day?
You know what? Honestly, I think it really wasn't that bad. Like,
it felt good up there, didn't it?
It was actually really nice because, like I said, I mean, we're a pretty dry climate, so there's not a bunch of humidity to deal with. But I think it was like 80, 85 degrees that day.
Oh, that's perfect then. Yeah.
And, I ended up renting, so they have the garage spaces in the pits that you could rent. I rented a garage, so we were pitted out of a garage, which was so nice. Like,
Yeah.
Like we had the garage, like it was somewhat cool in the garage. Like each garage had its own private bathroom. Like I never felt like more of a professional racer than I did that weekend. You know what I mean? Like most of the time, like hooligan racing, the flat track stuff, you're just out in the weeds and the dirt, like,
camping and shit.
Yeah.
That'd be a dope deal. Like y'all should have made some like promo videos, like Talladega Nights when he's doing the products. It's like, if you don't chew big red gum, then fuck you. I can see that happening. But no, that's you basically had 6 months to build this bike, right? To get it done. Mm-hmm. And then the first time you really got to rip it was on the track.
Yeah, well my dumb ass, I mean, I had 6 months.
But you waited till
I went home and bought a bike like the next, probably within a month of that first Chuckwalla day.
Yeah.
I kind of went home like, all right, do I really want to do this? Don't I? I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm doing it. All right, I want to start with a Road King, kind of start the hunt for the right bike. I bought the bike, stripped it all down, kind of had a plan. I started ordering some parts here and there, talking to some brands like, hey, can you help me out with this or that? Like, started that whole process pretty early. And about that time, I started having like some like basically just staffing issues at my shop. Like a couple of my guys left, and I'm going right into my super busy season. And there was one point where I had like 4 to 6 weeks of like scheduled work, and that's with me and 2 other guys in the shop. And those 2 guys left, which basically left me with 4 to 6 weeks of 3 guys worth of work kind of by myself. Mm-hmm. So like I really struggled. Like I'm just barely now kind of getting caught up. Like
from all that.
All that. I got a couple new guys in there. I went through a couple of guys that didn't work out. Now I got a couple more that's, have some real promise, and I'm stoked to have those guys.
Has the part shortage like affected you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, both in the shop and online. Like, I mean, we could be selling.
There, you can't sell it, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, it's part shorted stuff. So yeah, the bike, like I had time to build it, but I tore it down. I started having parts trickle in here and there. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have everything. And then it got down to the wire. Like I basically, like that day I decided I had to go get my license. It was like first week of May. So it was like about a month away from the race.
Yeah.
But my frame was just that. It was a frame. It hadn't gone to powder coat. It hadn't, like, the motor hadn't been built.
Yeah.
I got my license all handled. I was still super busy. And then, like, the last week or 2 weeks before the race, it was just like
my nightmare.
Yeah.
Run me through, like, some of the things you went on the bike. Like, so, like, how did you decide to build the motor, and what parts did you run on that? Like, what were you looking for? More of a torque motor or horsepower motor? Like, what's some of those type of thoughts?
I mean, never riding a road race track or any experience like that. Like, I just went with my gut. I wanted to build I really didn't want a monster motor right off the get-go. Like, I wanted to just build a mild motor. So, I mean, I did an SNS 124, the SNS 475 cam, pipe and intake, and that's what I ran that weekend. You know, and the bike made good power. I mean, it made I think roughly 120 horse, 135 foot-pounds of torque. You know, nothing crazy, but good usable power, like, in that power range.
Yeah.
Like, because, I mean, and honestly, like, I had spent a ton of money on wheels, suspension, brakes. I had spent a bunch of money in those categories. So, like, and I felt in the beginning that my money is better spent in suspension and braking.
Yeah.
For what I'm going to go try and do. Like, I don't need to make 175 horsepower.
Yeah.
What I need to be able to do is get through a corner,
Stop
before I get to the corner, and then get around the corner with some speed, you know.
Seems like the braking is one of those, when you start buckling down and hauling ass, whether you're doing it on the track or not, that's when you realize, oh, brakes are important. Like, if you're coming in hot in corners and your brakes don't work,
yeah,
that's fucking, that's a big deal. And that's something that I think that a lot of people don't really get any experience with until they need it. You know what I mean? Because brakes are expensive, whether it's rotors or going full radial calipers everywhere, going Brembo or fucking Behringer everywhere. Like, that shit, that's a motor. You know what I mean?
Easily.
Yeah.
You can spend way more money in brakes and motor if you want to. Yeah.
I mean, what would you say? You go through a caliper or pads for each track day?
Probably not a caliper, but
not a caliper. Pads and rotors, maybe. Get a couple weekends out of them. So pads for sure. I mean, just because the brakes get super, super hot. Because, I mean, I guess I didn't really realize it until I was on the track how much different the track riding is versus, like, ripping up the canyon with your buddies.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same. Like, you go rip up the canyon with your buddies, like, you're not really using the brakes all that much. You know, you might be slowing down a little bit, but
I don't think you're going to ride that as hard as you would on a track because of the potential hazards that are on a street, know, whether it's gravel, traffic, something anything.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah. So, I mean, if you go hit a canyon and let's say there's a 180-degree turn, you're not going to go wide open throttle into that corner. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And even like coming in heavy braking, like if you're heavily front braking, trying to trail brake around one of those type of corners, it's like the amount of trust you got to put into that, and then hope there's nothing on the road.
Yeah.
So as you're doubling down on that front brake, not coming into some fucking gravel or sand or hitting a slick spot or whatever the fucking case be, where your bike will wash out. I mean, it's a lot of trust on a street bike. You're on the street. You know what I mean?
So, like, the way I rode that bike on the track versus the way I would go out and rip through a canyon, it's so, like, night and day different.
Yeah.
And brakes are a huge part of that. Like, I've never used brakes as hard as I did on the track.
Yeah. Barely any rear brake, or how did you?
Yeah,
ever?
barely rear brake.
Yeah.
Lots of front brake. And honestly, my front brakes, like, you know, they have the braking markers in each corner.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? Like, so you can, you know, start to memorize these points in the track or each corner. Like, okay, I can drive until marker 3 and then get on the brakes and I can get stopped. Like,
That's probably one of the hardest things for riding the street is knowing how far you can push the throttle before you have to go 100% brake into it.
Yeah.
So that's...
And you don't know the first time.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the first time or even the 10th time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On Saturday at the race, on practice day, like the whole first practice session, I was like letting off way early, you know, and then like as I started to get more comfortable and start pushing into the corner further, finding my comfort level of, you know, how far I can hold the throttle wide open till I chop it and slam on the brakes. Like, and it's only because you're in a track and you're hitting the same corners over and over and over again, where if you go hit the canyons, you hit this corner once and you're gone. You might hit it the next day when you do it again.
And the other thing is that, like, when you hit a canyon, if you're going back and forth through it, those curves become different curves.
Yeah.
At that point, so it's not like a loop where you're going around and around.
It's not the same corner every time you come around.
That to me, I look at that aspect, which I've never been on the track, so I'm saying this from the outside looking in. I could see the fun in racing yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Just like fuck everybody else. I'm trying to beat my times each time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So. And
I think that's kind of like why I did so well is that I kind of like zoned all the other guys out for the most part, and I just focused on like hitting my marks, like memorizing these spots in the track where I needed to be, like you know, when to hit the apex of the corner, you know, when to start braking, when to get back on the throttle. Like there was like 3 corners that I would lean into, mostly 2 of them on the left where I would scrape my primary, and because I was running mids, it would pull my foot off the peg. So my toe would catch the ground, and the first couple times, like, it scared me. Like, it grabbed my toe and just, like, you know, ripped my foot off.
And you're committed on
I mean, there's nothing you can do. Like, you just hold on. You know what I mean? But then as the laps kept going, like I started memorizing those spots. Like, my foot's going to catch right here. So then I memorized, like, pick your foot up. You know what I mean? Like, and that was the challenge in it. Like, just trying to, like, lap after lap hit these markers. And what it resulted in is every lap, like, I started getting faster and faster through the weekend.
No matter what, though, the limitations of the primary definitely held a lot of people back. So you felt like you could have kept leaning into that corner. Man, that's got to be an insane feeling to like I scraped a peg. I scraped my floorboard last night. I was pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, I mean, the primary, I mean, it's down there.
It's like I went halfway as far as you did.
Isn't that how Steve went down?
Steve said that, he said that he said that he misjudged a corner because he was following the guy in front of him, and he ended up having to dip harder, and then it you know, what do they call it? Tripoded him. Yeah. Basically.
And that's the scary part. Like, when that primary hits, like, you know it because it unloads your tire.
Yeah.
You know, it'll pick the rear tire up off the ground, and you feel it. And it's, you know, when I was hitting the other side, the right side, it was the pipe that was hitting. It was the end of my muffler. And it's a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah, because
it'll flex.
Yeah.
But when that primary hits, it's sketchy.
I really wonder if Harley is going to make something, you know, some way to build a more slim primary that's going to suck it in a little bit more in some kind of form or fashion. Like, I don't know if they can, like, physically, but I feel like that's something they would, or possibly on the next, you know, the Revolution motor. I think it's all, like, even the Pan Americas, it doesn't stick out nowhere near as much.
No.
Because I think the clutch is, like, more sport bike-like.
I'd have to look at some photos, but I think it's all like in a single unit. You know, the clutch and primary, or there is no primary really. It really is just like
it's all enclosed in
gear
one
that drives the clutch, and so it's a lot smaller package for sure.
Fuck yeah.
But
it's just like a sport bike on that primary.
Yeah, and the clutch is probably on the. I haven't even seen a Pan America in real life yet.
Yeah, the clutch is dead. So the sprocket, it's
right
just like a sport bike is.
Yeah.
So the clutch is going to be on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. So we're going to get that motor in a bagger hopefully in a year and a half. So if that happens, like that would completely alleviate the ground clearance issues, because I think even the Challenger has a primary similar to.
Yeah, I think so too.
The way these traditional Harleys are. So
And
that would be.
Yeah.
That'd
be a game changer, I think, and I'm interested to see if that really comes out. Like even if it does, I want to jump on one quick.
Yeah, man, this is gonna be. What's fun about all this shit is it's definitely gonna change the face of Harley Davidson, and it already has. I mean, the performance scene in general, like even from the conception with all these Dyna guys running around, and to be clear, that's the scene I'm talking about. I'm not talking about all the fucking performance of, the 2010s and whatever the fuck. This whole emergence of this type of bike and this type of style seems to be catching on quick enough, and Harley's also catching on quick enough. You know what I mean? Like, remember when Harley did the Rocker C?
Yeah.
Was 4 years too late,
Mm-hmm.
and it was now the laughable part of Harley, basically.
Yeah.
It seems like right now the scene is built around normal Harleys. So that's one of the rare times in our history we've had that. But with racing, if all these organizations can kind of hold it together and push forward for another year or two, man, this motorcycle industry could be very, very different landscape than we grew up in. It already is in a sense, but the amount of parts and dude, I don't know, man. It's kind of inspiring, because I feel like so much more money would come to the fold. As far as it would be more appealing to so many more demographics of bikers, to not just be the guy that puts his club colors on and goes to Sturgis and looks for people that don't wear his colors to beat up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like those kind of. It's just gonna be more appealing in my opinion, and I don't know. I'm stoked. I'm along for the ride.
No, I think it's a cool time. I think it's an exciting time. If you want, whether you want to call it motorcycling or more specifically the American V-twin market.
Yeah.
I'm an HD guy kind of through and through. Whatever it is, I caught the bug.
Yeah.
But I also think it's good that Indian's here.
For sure, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't really want to go ride one or buy one, but I think that it's good that they're here, and I think it's good that they're challenging Harley. You know what I mean?
Was that a dad joke?
Yeah, I see what you did there. No, but yeah, I think it's good, and so it is exciting to see how is Harley going to answer to the Challenger. How are they going to answer to the FTR 1200? We've seen
apparently the FTR 1200s had some hard times. So isn't it they've had some wiring type issues or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think it's a perfect motorcycle.
Yeah,
but a lot of people wanted to compare it to the Sportster, but it wasn't. Yeah. That's not really a fair comparison.
Not at all.
But still, people were comparing them.
Did you ride the Sportster at all? Because they had them. They were running them all over fucking
the
Sturgis.
new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't.
Well,
I haven't. I should have went and rode one. I saw them doing test rides. I think it was in Deadwood. The one day I was there, but I was busy. I had to get to the show and then get sidetracked doing this or that.
It's a big fucking bike.
Really?
To me, it reminds me, seeing it in person, it reminds me of a V-Rod, seriously.
Don't say that.
I'm not trying to fuck it up for everybody, but it has
like a cafe V-Rod. It
has a Eurotrash vibe.
Do you think it has potential?
I think the other models that they kind of are
the
planning
ones
to
they
release,
teased us with.
So the other versions of the Sportster, I think, are going to probably open it up to more versatility, as opposed to this one seems more linear. It's got its design, and it doesn't really leave a lot of opportunity to make it a modular motorcycle, which is I think like Harley has always been modular. Every one of their bikes have always been able to do many different genres of motorcycles with it, right? Sportster is probably the most with it. You can travel, you can race, you can stunt, you can chopper, you can turn it into anything you want. Well, it's kind of like when Harley dropped that, what was that, the FDR?
The FXDR.
FXDR, yeah. Had some very badass parts on it. Like, if I was going to build a bike, I'd probably still like the headlight and some other couple of things on it, but putting a fucking 240 or whatever the fuck rear tire, like, it just completely eliminated so many different directions that bike could have gone once the aftermarket got a hold of it. And that's what everybody needs. That's what Indian needs. Indian needs the aftermarket to pick it up, because once you do, then those bikes become more appealing to the general public and all the other shit, You're always going to get a guy that's going to buy the bike stock and never touch it, right?
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for Barnstorm or Carry Hard or Instav and Kyle, like, those Indian Challengers they never really would have had I don't think that without those three guys building those bikes, we probably wouldn't even be talking about them anymore, to be honest with you.
I think for sure. I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, when I was in Sturgis, like, how many of those bikes did I see just out riding around? I don't think I remember seeing any.
I saw a few. There was a handful that I've seen, but
I saw a few of the other model, like the air cooled. Yeah, I saw a few of those. I don't remember seeing, and I wasn't really looking, so I could have missed them. But I don't know.
I saw one group of them where it was like 2 or 3 of them.
Really?
Yeah, that's an ensemble, I think.
I passed one on my way up there.
But the rest of the time, it'd always be that one dude in the group. It's like, come on, Bill. Yeah. We took you to the Harley dealership, man. Where the fuck did you go? It's like that one guy with a Challenger. They have potential. I mean, they're put like this. Those bikes are fast. They have everything that Harley doesn't, but technically they haven't won a race in a while.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough argument. I mean, but what I think is cool about it is that, maybe that Challenger comes with some really nice parts on it, nice suspension, some nice brakes right out of the box. Maybe
good power.
Yeah, good power, maybe a few extra features. But all that means is that shit's coming on an HD at some point.
That's what I'm hoping for.
You know what I mean? Like, it's got to.
I mean, you see the new shocks with the Olin's dropping the Screaming Eagle shots. And I'm stoked that they're doing it, but I just became Team Legends now. So, like.
They're a little bit late now.
Yeah, it's like I can't fuck with them now.
Yeah,
they're so nice looking, though.
I'm sure you'll end up with some.
Man. Like I've said it on the podcast, but you were one of the main reasons why I looked at going Legends. Like, your performance on the track, you know what I mean? Like, this is probably, a very dumb thought, but I was like, well, you did well on the track, and it wasn't like your suspension was what held you back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. As
opposed to the guys behind you that had full inverted front ends and things like that. Like, you still performed well with what you had.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't feel like the Legends was hindering you in any bit to do what you were doing.
Right.
And of course, like I was speaking to you earlier, Legends is much more involved in the motorcycle community than Olin's is. So, or in our Harley V-twin, how did they put it on the magazine? What was the thing?
Oh yeah, American Twin.
American Twin. Yeah.
So, yeah. That means your twin can go this way too.
Or just be just like
doing this. Yeah.
But no, man, thank you, because like I said, so far I enjoy them, but for me, like with the Legends, that everybody keeps asking, like, man, how do you like them? What's up, man? What are your thoughts? I'm like, well, it's hard for me. Like, my thoughts probably aren't as important as your thoughts, because you actually raced on them. You know what I mean? Like, you put them through a test that I've never done. Like, I'm just cruising across the country. So honestly, I'm really not the guy for that opinion. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a valid one, in my opinion. Like, if you want to know how it feels like ripping and running, like, you're the guy for it, not me.
Well, I mean, if dudes are looking to do what you do, then your opinion matters. But
Yeah, I think like if a dude is like if he's trying to make a buying decision, do I want to buy Olin's or Legends, and he's looking for input from, Instagrammers or whoever, like what type of riding is he doing? Is he going to be a track guy, or is he going to be a canyon ripper, or is he going to be just I'm going to set the cruise control at 80 and do 500 miles today?
I guess I need to figure out how to put them to a test to be comparative to something else. Like, because just riding it feels, it
feels good.
It feels good.
Yeah.
But,
but what is good?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the baseline is.
Yeah.
Everything at this point is better than stock.
Yeah.
So it's better than stock, but that's not, when you have Olin's and you have Legends in a very, very same price category for similar things. Like, obviously Legends doesn't have an inverted front end, but they have drop ins, and so does Olin's, right? So it's just it's tough to, what's the baseline there? Where are we starting at? And like, it's almost like, well, okay, let me run this track with these forks on there and that rear shocks, and then do it back to back with everything dialed in. It's like, I can't afford to do that kind of test.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think the suspension thing is such a hard thing to measure because, let's just say a dude buys a set of Olin's, whether he buys them directly from Olin's or from some other shop around the country.
Yeah.
And he gets them, puts them on his bike, and it just handles like dog shit.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not Olin's. Maybe it's just that it's set up wrong.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There's a really complicated science to suspension that, is even above my knowledge base. I can do some, but when it, what they do in their testing at like Legends or Olin's, like, I don't have the tool. I don't have a shock dyno.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
so
when I was sitting there waiting on the Legends to be installed, like, they had some pretty good YouTube videos explaining how they adjust everything. And it kind of, in a sense, I feel like it's more easy to understand for myself to make adjustments on the on the Legends now. Like, I know that they're put like this. Olin's is completely like, you got to have it all dialed in. You need to have a suspension tech there figuring it out, and that's what I found out through mine. The story I was telling you. I'm not trying to incriminate anybody, but basically my bike started riding like shit because my stuff was getting out of whack. But adjusting it properly would have brought it back to baseline and made it right. Well, I never touched it. Like, I rode it, like I had it adjusted when we had it made, or I got it, put on the bike, and it was all set up for me, and I never touched this. I never played with the knobs. Unless somebody came around while I wasn't looking and started turning shit on it. Like, shit was the way it was, and it rode fine for thousands of miles, and then it didn't. It rode like shit. It got to a point where it was scary at some points. And when I rode the new bike home, I'm like, this new bike feels 10 times better than my Olin's does. But it's not because Olin's as a whole was bad.
Yeah.
The shit just got out of whack, right? And I took it to a guy to get it dialed, and it didn't get dialed right. And then, like I said, the new owner picked it up, and he actually he taught himself the suspension and adjusted it and was able to get a lot of the stuff out of it, a lot of the issues I was having out. But to me, I want something a little more simplistic. And that sucks to say because, like I said, why I said on this last podcast, why I put my foot in my mouth is because if I was going to spend the same amount of money, I'd probably go for the more complicated, higher tech version of whatever I'm buying and try to learn it and figure it out. But even with me trying to learn and figure it out, I realized that I just didn't have the bandwidth to fucking focus on sag and, rebound and all this shit to the point where I'd understand it. And especially traveling when you're on a bike and, gas stop to gas stop and town to town and state line to state line. It's like, I don't want to have to stop and readjust everything for the new terrain I'm riding on, which I felt like maybe I would have had to do with Olin's, but I don't know. Like I said, I'd never had a problem with them until I did, and then it was a big problem.
Yeah, that's the really cool thing about Legends is that they are pretty simple. Like if you want to order a set of Legends today,
Yeah.
like it's pretty straightforward. Like, you know, whether you go to their website or your local dealer, like Legends makes suspension for American V-twin motorcycles, and that's
Yeah.
like their market. That's who they make it for. So it's really easy to build or to order it. They have a ton of videos like on YouTube
Teaching
and
you
stuff.
how to adjust it yourself.
Yeah. You know, so like they are in that aspect way ahead of the game than, you know, Olin's if you're just looking at the American V-twin market. Because like if you want to buy a set of Olin's, you don't know where to order it from right now. And then if you do, you have to select your own spring. Well, how do I select my own spring? How do I know how to select it? You know, you know, and then when I get it, how do I set it up? Well, like who do I go to ask them how to set it up? Like it's a really kind of clunky, complicated service.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think it's great suspension. I run it on my Road King. I think it's really good. I'm not talking bad about them, but I'm just saying from a consumer standpoint, if I was some dude sitting at home right now, the process to buy a set of Legends is way easier. Way easier.
And like we were saying earlier, it seems like a lot of the more predominant Olin's guys, like they all have a little bit of a past that you have to kind of either accept or not accept or whatever the case may be. Like I know that like guys like Ramjet sells it. You know, Tony at Ramjet sells Olin's, but he's not like when you look at their brand, you don't think like, oh, he's the Olin's guy. Like you would Big Bear, Kraus, or MJK, where these guys are pumping that shit out and they're making products to make those products work on your bike.
Yeah.
So Olin should step up and offer a triple tree for every model of bike that they sell a suspension for, or an inverted triple tree, which doesn't seem like it'd be a complicated thing to invest in when you're literally going to make the money back by selling it as a kit.
But I mean, they make suspension for cars and
that's
sport bikes.
Yeah.
Fucking
Sport
bicycles.
Bikes, mountain bikes, all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, for a company like that, I would think it wouldn't be really hard to make a triple tree to go with your forks for a Harley touring bike, you know, and then sell it as a package.
Yeah, that's what I would actually like to see that. So, but anyway, maybe Harley does it. Maybe through Harley, like that makes so with their partnership with Harley now, with having the Screaming Eagle, basically 357s is what it looks like. The suspension, like rear suspension, like okay, well if I can go through Harley now, and there's an inverted front end offer through Harley with, like, dude, everybody's gonna go that route. Like, I don't think that all of us. I think most of us don't have a problem going Harley on certain products. It's just Harley's never had the extreme version of the products. Like, you know, we want the cam that the EPA said no to. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we want. And, you know, fortunately with suspension and braking, Harley's not going to be, you know, held back by the EPA giving us those type of products. So maybe that's the route. You know, what if they did drop what if it wasn't a CVO? It was like a new Road Glide, but it was like a straight up all decked out performance version of it,
road race version,
kind of like what's the Street Glide that came with no radio and shit, but it was all there still.
Oh, the standard.
Yeah, like a standard, but like with all race style products. So you had the fairing, but no radio and speakers in it.
Basically a track ready. It'd have to probably still be street legal. So it'd have some lights on it. Yeah, but maybe be the track version of a Road Glide.
Yeah,
with inverted Brembos.
Radio calipers, because they already have the radio. You know, they're already starting to do that shit with like the Livewire has radio calipers on it, and I think the Pan America has radios as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it has a radio. That new suspension. So this is one thing that Suicide Machine Co. Sean was telling me, and he was like, and they work really close with Harley. I don't know how they got so close with them, but they're really close. I guess how is because they build nice bikes.
Yeah.
But, he said like that Livewire, because I rode it and that thing was fucking insane. I don't know if you ever ridden one.
I haven't.
It's wild. I would never buy one, but it's fucking like an experience. He He said that's all of Harley's technology right now. That's about to trickle down into the other bikes. And it has. So the new computers in the 2021 setup is all from the Livewire, and it's now on all the Pan America, and it's also on the 21 models. That's why everybody's having a problem getting tuners right now.
Yeah.
So can y'all talk right quick while I go re-up beers and tinkle?
Can you grab my other one out of the freezer? I told everybody that you're willing to race for slips.
Wow.
I asked them who could beat you in a race. I only had 2 people say they could, but they didn't really mean it.
Well, if anybody wants to come forward, I'm down. What kind? I mean, I guess what kind of race are we talking here?
Foot race.
Foot? I'm older than I look, so I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Well, how was the flight?
Flight wasn't bad. Quick and easy one. Like, it was pretty cheap. So, like I said, I mean, Mondays are my kind of my day off, or my day to just do whatever. And so, like, talking to Jace, I'm like, yeah, I'll fly down Monday, and like we'll just bullshit for a while. Like, it's a good way to spend my day off.
You ever in Texas much?
I've been in Dallas twice, but it's been at least 10 years since I've been here last.
Shit.
And both times that I came, like, I didn't see or do anything. The last time I came, it was actually when I was still at the dealership, and I was here for a dealer meeting. And so we basically lived at the convention center, wherever that was at. I was there for like 4 days. I didn't really see anything.
Right on.
So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks, Jordan. I do have hollow bones. No.
So, I'm on a lot of medicine right now, so I'm like not all there.
Zoned out.
Did y'all talk about, do you know of any dates coming up for a race or?
For BRL?
Yeah.
So, yeah, BRL actually announced over the weekend the next race is December 10th, I think it was.
I heard it was supposed to be, the next one was supposed to be here in Texas.
I heard that too, but
Yeah.
you know, that's what we were told a few months back. And then it was like the race in Salt Lake happened, and then everything went silent. Like, and I'm just like, hey, like, what's up? Like, I'm ready to go race again. I got this bike. Like, what's the deal? And there was just nothing. I didn't get anything from anybody. And I think that I don't think I'm the only one in that boat. Everybody's like standing there with a race bike in their shop or whatever, being like, what's the deal?
Well, you could have brought it to Sturgis and paraded around with all those guys there.
I would have if I would have gotten invited.
Well, you had made a good point because you were talking about like painting a helmet and stuff for it, and I was like, well, I don't know that I would want to commit to painting a helmet and then there's no more races. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
and then you kind of countered that up and like won the argument based not as an argument, but like, well, I built a $70,000 bike.
yeah, I did
in the hopes that
in hopes. I mean, basically on a prayer that there was even going to be racing. This was back in, you know, February, March when I started that process. And then, you know, I buy a bike, I get it torn down, and then they're like, well, you can only race a bagger if you've got this much racing experience. And I didn't have that experience. And so then I'm like, now what do I do? Do I hire a guy? Do I start looking to hire a rider? Do I want to pay somebody to ride this bike? Do I want to ride it myself? You know, and for me, like deep down, like I'm a racer, and so I really wanted to ride it myself, but I was also trying to look at it from like a business standpoint of like, what's the better marketing value? Mm-hmm. Me build the bike, hire a guy and have it run in the GP class, or me build the bike and go out and race it myself. You know, and we went back and forth on that argument, like what's better. Because it like before the first race happened, it really seemed like nobody was talking about any of the classes except for bagger GP. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to do it, like I want to be in the bagger GP class because that's the class that's getting all the love. And that was like, okay, maybe we talk about finding, you know, a local pro or, you know, somebody that would be willing to come out and race the bike for, you know, a reasonable amount of money. But then, you know, some guys are like, well, if your guy doesn't win, is anybody going to remember who got 7th in the bagger GP class? Like, if he goes out and gets 7th, like...
Well, if it was just like a racer, like somebody that's not known in the industry, but if it was you or Steve Chamberlain or somebody that we knew, then like we're like, fuck yeah, homeboy, you know, like also we're rooting 9th place and out of 10. We're like, fuck yeah, homeboy got 9th. He didn't lose to the
he beat that
guy.
one guy.
Except for the cameras are only focused on the front, like 5.
So that's what we were talking about. So when he raced in his class, he had quite a bit of coverage.
Yeah, he
on
did.
him.
I got
because
quite a bit of, and I think it was just lucky that, you know, I don't know why they picked up on me for whatever reason. I don't know if it was my bike, like
colorful.
in the colors, like it wasn't just a black Harley out on the track. Like,
I mean, well, it was 3 of y'all like banging it out.
Yeah,
Like it was 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
3rd, I was battling. So I was battling Wheelie Pig, and he was in 3rd. I was in 4th, and you know, I was kind of trying to chase him down, and there was a little bit of a battle, kind of going back and forth with me and him, and they like in the fight TV coverage, they started showing it. I was a little bit back, and I was getting a little bit closer, and then like as I kind of caught up to him, is when they cut away back to the leader. And then I was like, man, now they're just watching. And the leader had kind of checked out. He was by himself.
Yeah,
and they just kind of watched him for the last, like, 2 laps.
Yeah, and that to me, like we were saying earlier, that kind of gets a little bit boring because I want to see the competitiveness. I want to see the
it's way
people
funner
getting,
to watch.
Yeah, it's like, who cares what place they're in? It's like, fuck.
I mean, it could be 9th and 10th place, but if they're, like, chopping it up, like, back and forth, like, you know, cutting under each other, like, that's what you want to watch.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, but I get, like, because I watch a lot of racing, and I get, like, if, let's just say it was me that was in first place. Let's just say that I was a badass, and I was in first place. I built an awesome bike. I'm a killer rider, and I go out, and I'm in first place, and I smoke the field. But I don't get any TV coverage. Like, I'd be pissed off. I mean, like, why don't I, you know, you're showing 9th and 10th place and I'm checked out, like, you know, so I get there's another side to it, but I don't know. I agree.
I always think about, like, golf, right? You know what I mean? They're always playing the leaders, but I mean, it's a slower sport. Obviously, it's one of the slowest there is, but, you know, just like you have to get, I think Fight TV, it's probably the first, because they did drifting events, I think, before or something like this. I don't know. Like, I don't know if they've had a lot of motorcycle coverage on a track or racing like that way, but and if they even had enough cameras to kind of really, you know, carry multiple different feeds, you know what I mean? But like you said, I mean, you couldn't see shit but that first straightaway
at the race as a spectator.
And I'm assuming that all the controlling for what they're going to show is coming from somewhere in one of those boxes at the main thing. They have cameras out there everywhere, but they're basically looking at all the feeds, and they only see what's in the cameras, not what's like going on the track, right? So they can't see those. Maybe they can't quite see the full battles that are taking place to be able to. Oh, we need to show what's going on right there. It's going wild. You know what I mean?
Well, I know for a fact that they saw. So in the race when I was battling Logan. At one point, I went to make a pass, and he cut back across, you know, in front of me, and I had to check up, and I went off track, and I just think that would have been exciting TV to watch. You know what I mean? But they didn't show that part. But I know that they saw it in the booth because the announcer, I've probably watched. Well, we have it playing in my shop now, so I watch it every fucking day, really.
Everybody else is where it's like, fuck.
You know, like
it's like that one song that plays over.
Yeah, yeah. But after they cut away from me and Logan, and they go back to the leader, I hear the announcer say, "Oh, there's a real battle heating up for 3rd and 4th." And I know that's when we started to really get after it.
Yeah.
So I know they saw it, but they never cut back to it. Like, and when I watched it the first night, because I went home from the race and watched it, and I was like, man, I'm getting a bunch of TV coverage. This is really cool. Like, and then they cut away. I'm like, oh, you can't cut away yet. I'm about to get run off the track. Like, and I save it, and I catch back up, and that's the part I wanted to watch. But they cut away. But when he said that, when the announcer's like, oh, there's a real battle heating up for 3rd and 4th, I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna cut back, but they never did.
Dude, even in the comment section on the app, the people couldn't even decide what they wanted. They're showing the front of the pack most of the time, and then everybody's like, what the fuck's happening behind,
Well, everybody wants to watch their homie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were wanting to see Steve on that. Yeah.
And then they would cut back to y'all, and then everybody's like, what the fuck's happening in the front? So.
Oh, the one guy?
Couldn't please anybody.
I think the funniest thing did you ever see that group chat or the chat that was taking place watching the live thing?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Dude, it was fucking hilarious. So one of the chick announcers, where's she from? She was like one of the... She was one of the
shades on?
Yeah, she was one of the sponsors that they kept bringing all the different main sponsors of the event to talk. And she was the chick that was from... Fuck, I can't think of where she was from.
Was it the light one, the Custom Dynamics chick?
Yeah. And everybody's like, that chick's high as fuck right now. Because she just looked like she was in another world when she was like in the fucking announcing booth. And like all the comments, because they showed the video, a lot of her on there when she's up in the booth. And then the comments next to it was just fucking ruthless.
That's the best part of social media, is when you see like somebody like post something stupid, and then you got like an hour's worth of reading all the comments of people just lighting them up.
Lighting them up, yeah. But no, overall, I think the experience was cool to watch, man, to see everybody out there doing it for the first time. It's like the first King of the Baggers. I had a friend there doing it, so I was stoked to see him racing in it. So I was happy for him. But this event was everybody, you there. Fucking,
you're talking about the
King of the Baggers, yeah.
Year?
So watching the King of Baggers, my buddy Tony Shreds was on there, and knowing him prior to all this racing, it was stoked to see him actually be a part of it, seeing how much he's put effort into it, like how much effort he's put into kind of building this scene, right, and seeing him actually getting the love and support from the actual big companies. It's really rare they do that shit. But this time, like I said, it was you, fucking Average Life of Bob out there racing. I don't know what his race team was called. I don't know, but then Steve and all the other homies out there, and it was just dope to see. You know what I mean? And it was fun. I mean, it's fun watching. I mean, I didn't get a chance to be there, so I don't know how much adrenaline was going through everybody as they're on the line. Like,
I think a lot. I think it was pretty crazy, like, especially for, I think, our class.
The Ops class was full of a lot of people. Like,
it was a big class, and we were also, like, all through Saturday and even Sunday morning practice, we never got to practice a start, right? So we had all done tons of laps, started to figure out the track, right? But none of us had done a start and gone into turn one in a pack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were the first race of the day, so we didn't even get to watch a start.
Yeah.
We were the first ones to kind of pack up on the starting grid and take the green light.
How wild was that? Like, was it like nerve-wracking, like feeling like you're gonna get hit by somebody?
I mean, that's always the shit that runs through your head. I've always felt like in all the racing I've ever done, I've always been a good starter. Like in my flat track stuff, like I've always gotten good starts. I think it comes from my drag racing background. Just, like good reaction time, like having a good feel for like getting the power to the ground without, doing a Steve. Yeah. So I just focused on making it, getting a good start so that if there is a pile up, I'm in front of it. You know what I mean? Like, and so I just try to like visualize, like focus on the light, get a good start, and get out front. And I think I came out of the start like in third, I think, which, I was a second row starter. I was in the second row. So I felt like I got a decent start, which set me up good.
Which bike won that race?
It was 30.
His name is Benny Carlson.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Benny other than I'm pretty sure he's an ex-pro supermoto guy and flat track guy.
Is he the one that ran 2 classes?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So he win both classes?
He won the Sportster class or Hooligan.
Yeah.
And the Big Twin GP. Or
Whose
Big
bike
Twin.
was he riding in y'all's class?
Sly Fox.
That's
So
right.
Sly Fox had 2 bikes. They had a bike in Bagger GP and in Pro Stock Bagger. So he won Pro Stock Bagger and Hooligan on Hooligan he was riding a bike that Suburban Harley had built. Right. It was a Suburban Harley XR bike that he won on.
That's cool.
So yeah, I mean, and he's fast. I mean, I'm assuming that he was in that class because maybe he's never raced road racing, and so like his racing credentials didn't allow him to race GP.
Yeah.
But he's still fast. Like he's raced motorcycles professionally in the past.
I wonder how like his times on the track compared to the GP class. Some of the riders there.
I'm not sure. I'd be interested in to see,
like if he was in that range, because those GP guys were doing what the track in like what was like the average, like 250, 240. It was like 2 minutes and
it was less than that. It was under 2 minutes.
It's like 150.
I think the 2 leaders. So the 2 guys in Bagger GP, Michael Barnes and Tyler O'Hara, who basically checked out in the GP class.
Yeah.
They were running 135s, I think.
So
136s.
And I want to say some of Steve's numbers was like the 2, like right at 2 minutes.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So
and that's kind of where I was at.
Yeah.
So like all day Saturday in practice, I kept inching closer to that 2 minute mark. And I'm like, man, I still want like a 159.9 today. I just want a 159.9. And I just kept pushing on Saturday and never, like I ran a 2 minute flat a couple of times on Saturday. And I was like, man, I really I know it's like just 0.1 of a second, but I just want a 159.9, but I never got it Saturday. I made a few changes to the bike on Saturday night. Wake up Sunday morning. There was a Sunday morning practice, and I went out, and I felt like even more, like just way more confident, like rested, and I ran a 159. Nice. Like, and it was crazy because I came off the track after the practice, and I'm like, oh man, that had to have been like 10 seconds faster, but it was only 1. But it just felt like so much faster. Yeah. I was like, hey, what were my lap times? What were my lap times? It had to be like at least 155s, and they're like, yeah, it was a 159. I'm like, but it was a 159, so I got a little bit faster. And then in the race, I consistently ran 156s in the race.
Wow. So maybe like the competitiveness.
I think the competitive like adrenaline factor.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was chasing someone, like, you know.
Yeah, you see the lines and stuff like that. Yeah.
So like, you know, you just tend to hold it a little bit harder, and so yeah. But yeah, that 2 minute mark for I think for the GP guys. Like I said, there was those 2 guys that were running 135s, and then there was like the middle of the pack guys, which were still really fast. I think they were running 140, like between 140 and 145s. Yeah.
Oh, that was like, so they ran 135, so that's like 25 seconds faster.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It was good. But those guys, like you can feel, like when you're there in person, like it's like I watched the TV thing, and it's really hard to tell. But when you're there in person, like you can tell, like you can just see that those 2 guys are on another level. Mm-hmm. Like those 2 guys are like top tier pros on sport bikes.
Yeah.
Like then there's that mid pack set of pros that are kind of like, you know, club level, maybe kind of washed up pros or, you know, whatever. They're still fast, but they're not that top level guy, you know. And that's
like,
the thing
like
I
Ben
worry.
Bostrom?
Bostrom is one of them. I mean, he's fast,
he's old,
but he's
man.
old.
Yeah.
You know, so he's not going to go run a 135, but he could probably go out and run a 140 or 145.
Yeah, I think Ben was like the big hype for a lot of people because he's like a famous.
Well, everybody knows that name,
Yeah,
right?
you know, like people that's followed racing at all, you know, and hell, or you know, ever been into helmets. Like Ben's had some really sick helmets over the years. But yeah, like he I don't know, he never really seemed to perform, but he got a lot of fucking time on television, like, you know what I mean, like talking to the cameras and things like that. And I don't know, like, I think they were trying to ride on his fame from another world.
Yeah.
But I really think they should have focused more on the grassrootsness of this event, which is you guys all coming up there and figuring it out and getting on the track.
I mean,
You know what
I think, in my opinion, the BRL needs to know that that's their space.
Yeah.
They can't try and be the king of the baggers, Moto America. You know what I mean? Like, they need to realize that their place is kind of the stepping stone maybe to those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, be the grassroots guy, be the organization that has a spot for guys like me, guys on their Sportsters or their Softails to race their Harleys on the track, get this experience, and then as the cream of that crop rises, they can move over to King of the Baggers.
Yeah.
But when they're two separate groups, really, and you could call them two separate businesses, one doesn't want to, like, you know, quote, bow down to the other and be the feeder into the other. Like,
It's almost really, like, well, do you think at some point, like, the people that are like, I would agree to what you said 100%. I think that's probably the better way if they were to actually come to like more of a, like a gentleman's handshake. Like, look, we're gonna get these riders and bring them up, and we're gonna have a top tier class, but your class can be that more professional world where you're gonna need sponsors to get into that fucking Moto America stuff. You're gonna need to have paid sponsors to help pay the way to get into it because it's way more expensive. Well, that I feel like, do you think at that point they would need to take away the pro riders like the O'Hares and the other dude? What was the guy's name that rode the DTF bike?
Michael Barnes.
Yeah, so guys like him should probably not quite be allowed to ride in this.
I thought that was bullshit from the beginning.
That they were racing in that?
Leave them in King of the Baggers. It's
really?
You know.
Yeah.
Well, I just think from a business standpoint, Bagger Racing League still has to put on a show.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, like, if they want to sell tickets to a race or
They probably would need those
sell
names,
pay-per-view, like, how many guys, like, I like to think that, you know, guys want to watch me race, but that just ain't the case. You know, I think, like, my wife and my parents want to watch me race, but that's probably about it, you know? So me alone is not going to sell spectator tickets or pay-per-view. So they're going to need some names to you know, from a business standpoint, to sell seats and pay-per-view events and stuff like that.
What we need is a good beef.
Something.
Maybe some Conor McGregor up
Yeah,
this bitch.
yeah. I need someone to start talking some shit.
Yeah, no, but that makes sense. I don't know. It was just like more of a passing thought. I mean, I don't think it. I think you're completely right. Like, you would need to have some of those bigger name riders, but it just kind of sucks because if it is going to be like I don't know. I guess they're not even looking at it as a stepping stone, so there's no reason for us to look at it that way either. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's hard because it's like, you know, both those two guys, Barnes and O'Hara, they were at BRL, but they also were racing Moto America, the King of the Baggers. And then it kind of, it's hard because then those teams have to decide, okay, we're going to fund this team to race BRL or King of the Baggers, but if we do both, which legally, technically, the riders and the bikes can race both, but that just means we have to pay for 10 races versus 5 a year, you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, we have to double our budget to be able to race both. So then, like, does it take away from, like, okay, we're only going to race BRL, or we're only going to race King of the Baggers? Because the Harley team, the factory Harley team wasn't at BRL.
Yeah.
But the factory Indian team was. That, you know, O'Hara was there. There was, like, so it's hard because then if you
supposedly
have
though the two riders from Harley were sick or they had something like that. It was like an issue that they had both. I don't know, maybe they had COVID or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah,
there was something I remember hearing about that. They were talking about it on it, like
Mm-hmm.
there was a issue with them. But I don't know, man. Like it's interesting to see where it's all going. But how do you think that's all going to translate to you as a business, selling service, custom bikes, high performance parts? Like, how do you think that like the Kuryakin guys and the Live to Ride guys are going to be coming to your house, your shop, going, "Hey, man, what's this bagger racing thing I keep seeing?" You know what I mean?
no, I
want to race
don't
my
know.
fucking heritage.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me and like kind of my brand, what it does is it kind of tells a story, you know, kind of our journey.
It ties you more to performance than a lot of other
Sure.
people.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll definitely sell way more performance parts versus like, you know, 18-inch ape hangers and, you know, tassels to hang on your levers.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Fucking
Like,
love those.
But even still, like if you're a dude that, you know, let's say you're riding a street glide with a 21-inch wheel and ape hangers and stretch bags and the audio system, like those dudes still like to watch racing on the weekends. You know what I mean? And I've experienced it in the last couple of years, both with flat track and now the BRL. I have customers who are like, that come into my shop and they're like, when's your next race? You know, how did you do in your last race? How was it? You know what I mean? Like, so I know that like my client base is engaged with our racing. So I'm hoping that because of that, because they're engaged, they're seeing our stuff online and watching us on pay-per-view or whatever it is. They're like, oh yeah, that's my guy. That's my hookup. Like I go to that guy to get my bike worked on.
That's
you
cool.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and or even if you're just a dude somewhere else in the country and you're buying parts from us, like
It supports the racing and the
you see that, you know, we're not this big giant company. Like it's
How
just
many boats do you have?
how many what?
Boats.
No boats.
Fucking out there speed boating across Salt Lake or whatever.
Yeah, no boats. I'm not a water guy. I hate
I'm
the
not a
water.
guy.
No, I mean we're just a small crew. I mean it's me and my wife, and you know I got 5 guys in the shop, and we do everything, you know, from selling parts online, service work, custom builds, doing our own merchandise, you know, and you know, if you go to any one of these races and run into us, it's the same group of 5 people at the race that you're going to see inside the shop any day of the week, you know, and that's just it. Like when you buy something from me, like you're not just like feeding some bigger corporation, like like you're helping me, you know, kind of keep doing what I do. Like, you know, it directly affects me and my family and my kids and stuff like that.
And that's what we were talking about earlier. We were talking about how like the online store is here to stay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we both agreed that we weren't really on board with the online store mentality. We think that we both shared the agreements of like, look, if you want to buy parts, go find a shop and buy it from a brick and mortar. But the way the world's turning and Amazon and this and that, like, and the fact that like you have fans across the country that would love to support you and they might not be in your vicinity to get an oil change or a tire or, you know, T-bars put on their bike. You know what I'm saying? So buying it from you on your online store is a way of them supporting you or choosing to support you over the shop that's local that doesn't quite, like they're not into the trend that they're into.
Sure.
Or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and there's lots of, you know, really great shops around the country. But yeah, I mean, I just think that what sets us apart is the fact that, you know, we're kind of showing, I mean, unfortunately, I don't ride that much anymore. Like get out and actually just ride from here to Sturgis or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't have the time.
I think that I think on that note though, I think what happens is like you get into riding and that's what gets you into this. And then you figure out how to build the business, and then you have this years of building it and getting it to work on its own before it opens up that door for you to be able to, enjoy that. You got a whole crew bringing the trailer, and you get to jump in the bike and just kind of cruise and do a little scenic tour to Sturgis. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I feel like I'm almost to that point. You know what I mean? I'm almost to that point where I'm like, hey guys, you guys load the trailer. I'll see you in Sturgis. I'm hopping on the bike. I'm going to take the long way around, and I'll see you on Wednesday or whatever. I think I'm almost there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, maybe one day that happens. But the racing thing proves to people that I can ride.
Yeah.
I do, like, the parts that I sell or, whatever, like I'm out there putting them to the test.
I think that helps out a lot too, because you start to understand every aspect of the bike a lot more because you're putting the brakes to the test, the suspension to the test. If somebody comes into your shop and they're like, man, I want to make this bike do better than the Canyons, like by you being the racer on there, you have firsthand experience as the racer and the mechanic, right? So to me, I feel like you get probably the best. You probably have the best angle to give the customer the most honest opinion about what's going to happen and what to look for. So yeah, it was important that you probably was the rider on the bike, because if you weren't the rider, then how are you going to sell the experience to the customer?
Yeah, how can I say, oh, these feel great out on the track or the street, like when I'm not, like by going out there and doing it and then showing you through YouTube, Instagram, or whatever, there's the proof that I'm putting it to the test. And then when I say, yeah, these feel great, like I have tested it, so yeah, I mean, and I think we kind of came to that conclusion too, like with me racing the bike, like it was really cool that like I was, there was only a select few guys there in the garages that basically stripped their bike down to the frame, rebuilt it, did fab work on it, built their own motors, dyno tuned it themselves, and then raced it. And I did all of those things. You know what I mean? So like even more than like my 4th place finish, I'm more proud of being able to say that. Like, me and my buddy, James, built that subframe on my bike out of titanium. I had never worked with titanium before.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm up for a challenge.
Yeah.
Let's order some titanium and build a subframe. I've never welded titanium before, but we're going to give it a go here,
How much of a pain in the ass was it to do it?
A big pain in the ass. It was tough. I mean, it took us a while. We worked on it a lot.
Do you think you could reproduce it? Is that something you thought about doing for like?
Well, I'm already getting hit up for, hey, I want one of those. Can you make me one?
I mean, that subframe on the 09 and up baggers is a heavy motherfucker.
Oh, it's super
You take
heavy.
it apart, it's like solid fucking steel, man.
Yeah, that thing's like a boat anchor.
What is the thing weigh? Like probably like 30 pounds, maybe 25, 30 pounds.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
That's a good chunk.
And my tie one was less than half, if not more. I don't remember exactly. I weighed them both side by side, and I can't remember what they were.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like we've talked about reproducing them. I mean, there's a few companies making some billet versions of them right now. I mean, and they're not cheap. But just knowing, like, so I built that one, we built it from scratch by hand, like no jig, no prints, no nothing. Like we were just like cut, eyeball, tack it in place, put a level on it, put a straight edge on it. Like,
oh, some chopper shit, bro.
Oh yeah, full on. I mean, so it took us forever to get it right.
Yeah.
And we've talked about like trying to build a jig to like, be able to reproduce it in a quicker way. And I'd still like to maybe explore those options, but But the thing is I get done with the bike and the build, and then I go back in the shop, and then the service side of stuff is just so busy that I get pulled back into the service side. Then all of a sudden I'm just doing tire changes and oil changes all day.
Yeah.
Because it's like this quick, easy money.
Yeah,
It's like, do I tell this guy, go away, I don't want to do your tire, miss out on making a quick $100 or whatever, so that I could go maybe try and design this jig to make a subframe.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the tires are never, like, no matter what happens with the bikes, the tires and the oil is always the same, and they will carry a shop from the beginning to the end. Mm-hmm. It's just the repetitiveness and the issues that come with, I'm a tire changer, I'm an oil changer, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those become the lifelines of many shops. But I guess it's just how do you structure your business, get the right people in there to do that, to alleviate the stress of it, so that you can sit back and, put some music on and sketch and be like, okay, man, I want to do this. And you got the bike there. It's like, what if we carry it this high? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's where I struggle with that right now. Like, kind of where I'm at right now is like trying to make that transition from, just being like this service center to kind of custom bike builder. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I'll ever be able to do that in the same room as the service, because that's where it's at right now. Like, if I'm building a bike, it's in the same room that these guys are doing services.
You
and
get a different vibe.
And I can't get my mind in the right place when, I can hear behind me this guy's, oh, I'm going to do this to this bike, and I'm like, that's not the right way to do it. I got to go tell him not to do that. You know what I mean? Like my ear's always like, listening, like, what's going on over there? Like, are they doing it the right way? Are they doing this or that? And like, I can't turn that off to get in the right, kind of that creative zone. Like, and that's why I struggle with builds right now, is that like, I almost have to do them after hours or on weekends when those guys aren't there. 'Cause I just need to be able to go in, like, turn the music on and get my mind going, get, the ideas rolling, like you said, get the pencil out, start sketching or whatever it is. Yeah. But I never have the opportunity to do that right now. It's like, I want to move buildings at some point. Like, we've outgrown our spot, and I'm like, I would love nothing more to, in the new spot, there's a service shop, and then there's my room. Yeah. And there's locked doors for my room, and I can go in there and lock the door, and if it's locked, then don't knock. Exactly. I'll come out when I'm ready. You know what I mean? Dude,
you kind of have to. I mean, once you start building all this crazy, this business up, man, you have to find a way to escape, because those are all distractions. I mean, you have a lot going on with the business, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're there, you want to be connected to it. Yeah. Because you want to make sure it's running right. Yeah. But I mean, for me, like, to get into a creative mindset, sometimes I have to be here in the middle of the night or early in the morning, or I need to go to the fucking they're not all drink.
Wow.
This is 3.
Leave a few for the rest of us.
But you just get to a point where, like, you gotta, like, when I sketch helmets, right? As stupid as this is, like, sometimes I'm in a vibe where I want to sketch in the studio. So I'll sketch right here, and I'll just put some lo-fi music up there, and we'll just be jamming in here, fucking drawing up helmets. Sometimes I'll sketch in there, and then I have a desk in my garage that's kind of the late night vibe, like whenever I can't sleep, and I'll just come in there and pop the light on and just doodle and shit like that. That's exactly how my current bagger paint job came to life. I couldn't sleep because I was thinking about it. Man, should I paint it for Sturgis or what? And I was like, what if I did? Yeah, let me go draw that right quick. So I ran into the garage and sketched it up. And I was like, all right, cool. So I did another one real quick and played with the colors. I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Fuck it. Figure it out. But you see my shop, like, there's not a lot going on here. Yeah. It's easy to kind of like turn this into a place where you can mentally focus on it, especially like if you decide to turn the internet off. Yeah. You're fucking in another world, another dimension here. But man, like, one of the weird things, and I think I kind of asked you at lunch today, we were kind of talking about it, but what does the future of custom motorcycles look like? Is it going to be Is performance based bikes ever going to get a touch of custom the way that other genres of bikes were, or is it always going to be this? Does it make sense for you to build one badass subframe for this build, or is it just, is everybody on the mindset of like, I'm gonna build one for this bike and then mass produce it, and now it's a new part? Like, there's a lot of differences between the bikes that were built in the past and now, where if you're building a race bike like that Wooley's workshop dude did for the Saddleman bikes, there's a lot of custom shit on there, but it's not necessarily custom stuff that we would put on our bikes for traveling, hitting up the hardcore cycle show, that type of shit. You know what I mean? Where do you see it going with that?
Well, there's got to be some trickle effect from the parts that we put on these performance bikes into the market to be able to sell it, to be able, to create business, for us to continue to make it to the next build. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some sort of trickle, but like you said earlier, like the performance bagger thing, like they're not, it's hard to really call them builds. Yeah. They're more bolt together.
They're customs. Like it's just customized.
Yeah. The term build, like I think is, like how far do you take the term build? Like is build like you started from scratch, like you take a frame or you take a bunch of, tubing and you make a one-off frame and all these one-off parts? Or is a build like taking a stock bike, stripping it down to the frame and putting your custom touch on it?
I would say in our world right now, like we don't, like the chopper world can appreciate that. Our world doesn't appreciate that. You know what I mean? Like if our performance world was, hey, I'm going to take these tubes over here and turn this into a race bike, we'd be interested to watch, but it's kind of like the Indian. Like, oh, that's cool. It's there. I don't fucking want one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want that fucking Road Glide, that stock one with those fucking Screaming Eagle shocks on the back of it.
Yeah. And that is the cool part about like where the industry's at now with like the performance bagger stuff and even the bagger racing league stuff, is that it's very relatable back to the motorcycles that guys do want to buy right now.
Yeah.
They look at my bike out on the track and it looks like a Road Glide, and that really in the big picture helps the motor companies sell more Road Glides, right? Like, because a guy sees it and then he can go buy a Road Glide off the showroom floor and he kind of is that racer. I mean, that's why guys buy sport bikes, right? Exactly. I mean, they watch the racing and they want to be like that dude, and so they go buy an R1 or something. You know what I mean?
Agree. Yeah, so I feel like, the whole concept of performance and then custom motorcycles, like there's always been big motors and sometimes suspension, sometimes brakes, and all kinds of customs for years and years and years. But now that it is the focus, but at the same time, when you see them all at your said show at Sturgis or Daytona, like we talked about this earlier too, like there's no, and I mean no disrespect to anybody out there show wise, but there's no show that if you win this show, like it has real meaning to it. You know what I mean? Like there's no Riddler Award for the baddest bagger built. There's no show with enough stature behind it that if you won it, that people will be like, that motherfucker built a killer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's no pinnacle.
There's no pinnacle show.
Like this is the one.
I think that, and to even build a pinnacle show, I think it's going to take a while for. The shows are complicated to put on. You need judging. You need this. It costs a lot of money for these people to put the show on at the set places. So to take that up a notch and have to put some high stakes type situation on there, where you're getting judges in to judge things very specifically. You're putting real purse money behind it to where the people that win it win something of substature. You know what I mean? Like I won $10,000 for building this bike. You know what I mean? That kind of shit. Like, that's hard to build that kind of show. And, you want to get enough participants in the show to where the other thing we were saying earlier is like, if you're in Sturgis and there's 4 shows going on or 3 in the same day, or 2 in the same day, then you really don't have all the baddest bikes there is to compete against each other. You know, and at that point, who really has the baddest performance bagger in Sturgis? If there's 2 shows at the same time across town.
Well, I mean, in Sturgis, I mean, there might be 2 shows today, but there's 2 more tomorrow, and then 2 more the next day, and then 2 the following weekend. Like, so all the shows in Sturgis become super watered down. Like rather than, you know, if there were just like one bike show in Sturgis where everybody showed up to, and there was 100 bikes to choose from, you know, there was, you know, 25 or 30 motorcycles in each category.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like, you could pretty much roll into any one of those shows and put your Sporty in it and probably win, because you're probably the only Sportster there. So, like, but does that really mean that you got the baddest Sportster in Sturgis? No, not really. It was just the baddest one that showed up that day.
Yeah, like, hey, what are y'all doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I'll register.
Yeah. It's like, does anybody ride a Sportster? Because we don't got one. We need to give this award away, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
That was a dyna class for the Hardcore Cycle Show. I was like, I wanted to tell them to do better. Like, I wanted to say, like, hey, here's the deal. We're not giving a dyno award away. There was a couple buddies that had some nice dynas in there, but I've been seeing those dynas for like 3 years.
Yeah.
So they're like, bro, you don't need to be taking trophies home for 4-year-old paint jobs.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, to me, it's like there are some guys out there that are building some badass bikes. And first off, the show needs to be at a point where it's like those guys, like, I need to get my bike to that show. I want my dyna to win this dyna class at this event because it means something. You know what I mean?
Well, that's like the conversation we had about social media leveling the playing field. Like, you know, back in the 2000s, there was like, you know, there was biker build off, and then if you won your episode and then you won like the whole thing, like that gave you a ton of credit.
Yeah.
Like that was something that every builder in the country wanted to be able to do, because it put you in the spotlight. But now today,
you could put as seen on TV on your fucking logo.
Yeah. I mean, but today, like, I could build a bike, blast it all over social media, and get as much attention myself as I would going to any one of the how many shows that are put on a year at whatever event, because there just isn't that much cred in the shows anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, the shows are cool. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I do enjoy them.
I dig them.
One of the homies said the FXR show is up there. And, yeah, like the FXR show in Sturgis,
I think so,
has that kind of stature. But at the same time, so this year, I don't know, did you know how they did it this year? So
I didn't. So there was 2 shows that day.
Yeah.
There was Jeff's show, or the Rockford Fosgate, you know, performance show in Deadwood, and I chose to go over there. I didn't go to the FXR show, so I didn't go this year.
So the way Joe did it was kind of cool. I thought it was cool because it allowed us all to pick. So he got like 5 or 10 judges, and each judge got to do their own pick, right? And what's cool is, like, I have my taste of my favorite style FXR. Like, I like custom painted FXRs. I don't really care about factory paint job looking FXRs personally. Doesn't mean they're not cool. It just means, like, hey, there's a guy here that's giving away an award that's into that shit. Or not that shit, but that thing.
That bike, that
right?
style.
Which I thought was cool, because then it kind of shows like a little bit of love, because the FXR itself has so many different variations of its styling, whether it's pro street, OG, club style, more this like newer wave where it's got a lot of, it's kind of like a retro or a resto mod kind of vibe, where it's got a lot of newer flavor, newer things. So there's a lot of different types of FXRs that fit, you know, and there's like a resurgence of 90s feel FXRs right now, that type of shit. But when I took that gold bike to the FXR, I think I got second place with that thing. I was fucking stoked on cloud 9. I feel like I got accepted in some kind of community, at least second place wise, because the bike that won was like fucking, like, it's kind of like the race, right? We're battling for third and fourth, but this other guy's in first, and he's like a whole lap.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it was whenever I entered my bike there. But it The FXR show kind of has it, but that show's been going on for years.
It's got some years behind it.
Yeah, so it means something for the people to get into it. But I think that the Hardcore Cycle Show has the potential to become that for the umbrella of performance motorcycles, personally. I've heard nothing. I haven't been to the Daytona version of it yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. Mm-hmm. And they're implementing like a build-off aspect for each one of the shows. Mm-hmm. So whether it's a skinny tire bagger build-off, or I think I talked him into doing like a different bike for a different show. So like if you're building a skinny tire bagger, that's going to be the competition for that will be Daytona. If you're building like say a Dyna or something like that, or a performance bagger, then the competition for that would be like Sturgis. Mm-hmm. That way it kind of, I don't know, when you feel like you have a reason to build a bike, like when you're building the bike for the V-Twin Visionary, sometimes we just need a reason to build it.
Yeah.
Like
gives you a deadline.
Yeah, it gives you a deadline, gives you a purpose, and it pushes you into action, you know? Yeah. If you just got to build a bike out of nowhere for no reason, like sometimes it's hard to find the motivation for that.
Yeah. Well, it allows you to, you know, use the excuse of like, oh, it doesn't really matter. I'll just work on it tomorrow. You know, like for me, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do this guy's, you know, service and tire change and not worry about that bike because I don't really have a deadline. But then when there's a deadline, it's like, oh shit, I can't worry about that guy. I got to get my own shit built.
Yeah.
So it, you know, it kind of holds you to the fire a little bit to get it done. Like for me, I always tend to get, like I said, I get sucked back into the service side of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and it's probably just for, you know, because I spent so many years in the dealership and that's like my comfort zone, and I'm trying to push myself outside of that and more into the custom side of stuff. But I find myself just always getting sucked back in, and you know, it's that constant battle.
Well, I would say the bikes that you've built under the brand, they've been top notch. You know what I'm saying? Like the Road King was, I mean, I praised it on the last podcast, and I'll do it again. It was a badass build, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was
the new bagger for the race. I mean, we were just talking about how like some people thought that shouldn't have been a pro. Was it pro stock?
Pro stock, yeah. That it's not a pro stock bike. That it should have been in the GP class. And you know, you can argue that all you want, but the rules say differently. The rule book says that bike meets all the requirements for pro stock. Mm-hmm. You know, the differences in the class were the rider, not the bike. Like I technically, and we had thought about actually racing the bike in both classes. We thought about, you know, when we were thinking about like, do I hire a rider or do I race it? We had the conversation of like, why not both? Mm-hmm. Why not? I'll race it in pro stock, hire a guy, ride it in GP, and we get the best of both worlds. And then we're like, well, that's like back to back and twice the abuse on the bike. Is it going to handle, like, if I wreck it and I screw this guy out of being able to race it? Like, so then we were just like, but we technically, by the rules, that bike could have went into either class. So, yeah. But I think that bike, I mean, I look, honestly, like, you know, I hate to say it because it, you know, but I look at that bike and I hate it. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so many things that I cut corners on and that I didn't really do, like, to my standard. Because I was literally welding pieces together the day before the race. I mean, I was literally making, like, the fairing bracket, the saddlebag mounts, like all that stuff I was still making the day before the race. And at that point, I still hadn't tuned the motor. I hadn't put it on the dyno yet. You know what I mean? So I look at it and I'm like, man, that part or this part, like, it just looks like shit. Like, I hate it. Like, I don't think it's a show winning piece at all. Like, I look at it and hate it.
Yeah, but for us looking at a performance, you know, a track bike.
Sure, you know. But you know, and it's a purpose-built bike. Like, it, you know, like I said, when I started building it, I knew I was going to build it as a race bike, but I also wanted to show it. So, like, style and looks had some factor. Like, the first priority was performance, but I also wanted to make it look good. But, like, when it got down to the wire, I was just slamming things together, cutting things, welding them, you know, just welding it up, like
Yeah.
just to get it put together. And I was literally still putting the bike together the morning of practice. Like I hadn't even fully assembled it yet. So
What made you go with that highlighter frame?
honestly, like I kind of got my inspiration on the colors from the sport bike world, like the MotoGP bikes. Like I went and I found a bunch of bikes, you know, from MotoGP and Moto America, and they all use a lot of those really bright like neon colors, and yellow especially. Yellow's like pretty predominant.
Do you think they do that to stand out in the sea of bikes on the track?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it worked for me too. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's why I got some TV time.
Yeah.
Maybe
Makes
not.
sense.
I don't know. I'd like to think so, but I think that made the bike stand out for sure, you know. And I didn't really realize it. It was kind of funny because my brother brought this up to me like after the bike was built. We were at the race and he was there hanging out with me. He's like, I know why you picked that color scheme. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't know why. He's like, yeah, I do. And one of the last drag bikes that I built was basically that same color scheme. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really even realize it until he said that. I'm like, holy shit. Like I had a neon yellow frame and paint that was blue, neon yellow, and pink. Mm-hmm. And I never even thought about it until he said that. So it's kind of cool that like one of my old drag bikes was the same color. But it was from MotoGP.
Yeah, that makes
MotoGP
sense.
bikes.
You know, you want to find that color scheme or find those things that are loud and that capture your attention. It's kind of like, you know, like maybe if you were building your other Road King, like you wouldn't have probably picked the neon frame for
not.
For, you know, because it's not going to appeal to it's not going to appeal to a crowd in Sturgis, you know, the same way it would appeal to somebody at the track.
Yeah. I know, like, you know, sitting in the shows, like up at Sturgis, when I put that bike in some of the shows, you know, like the show on Tuesday, the Speed and Style show, like there was, I mean, like 30 invited builders there. And it was really like, I mean, there were some really awesome paint jobs and stuff there, but like when you looked out into that group of 30 bikes that were sitting there, like mine stood out. I mean, because there was lots of black and dark reds and, you know, whatever, kind of these darker colors. And then there's this bright blue and neon yellow thing sitting in the middle. Like, so, you know, like when you're walking into the show, like kind of the first bike that catches your eye is that bike.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not why I did it. Like I said, I legit did it because like I was like, all right, we're going road racing. Like I want to draw some inspiration from
that world,
from you know, MotoGP. Like when we show up, I want this bike to look like it's a MotoGP bike, not a black street glide or a black road glide. You know what I mean?
Like it just got off Sons and Eric, he said.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's. I mean, I could see that. I could see why people would want to do that, or why you would do that. Like, like how many of us can say like, hey, we're building a bike that's going to be seen on essentially TV. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, then you would probably think about, okay, well, how is it going to translate looking at it on the screen? That's the way I think though. Like, right? Because we said it right with Instagram. We do a lot of things, and as long as it works well on Instagram, then that translates into business working well, right? So sometimes doing a badass paint job is how well does it do on Instagram. Sometimes that's the new bike show, man. Like I don't have to make it look like, as long as it fucks hard on Instagram, we're gonna be okay. The customer's gonna be happy because everybody likes his shit. Mm-hmm. People are gonna ask me for how much was that paint job, and everybody wins, right? It's not like before where everybody was taking it to a show. I rarely get hit up like, hey, I'm building a bike for Sturgis. It almost never happens, you know, unless people are like, hey, I'm building a bike to go to Sturgis. No one's like, hey, I'm building a bike for the so-and-so event in Sturgis. Never.
No.
You know.
Yeah, it's
even like Born Free, like it just took place this weekend, right? There are Born Free builders, but even like the FXR Bagger show, all the shows that like San Diego Customs put on, I don't hear anybody hit me and go, hey, I'm building a bike for that show to go out there and try to win that show. And
that was the one that I built my Road King for.
For real?
Was Born Free.
Oh, okay.
That's where I kind of debuted it and showed it first, was was born free and
10 or Born Free 10, right? 2019.
19.
Yeah, we were there on that one. That's when I saw it. Yeah.
So yeah, that was, I had just gotten the bike done before that show. We were kind of building. We started it.
That was the first year they did a performance bagger class.
Yeah.
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 That's right.
When I called them, I called San Diego Customs, and I was like, hey man, like I built this bike, like it's kind of like an FXR, but it's a Road King. Can I show it on Saturday in the FXR show? And they're like, fuck no. They're like, what does the VIN say it is? I'm like, well, the VIN says it's a Road King, but
Yeah.
you know, it looks like an FXR, but they're like, no, it's got to be on the Sunday show and the performance bagger show. So that's what it was. So, but that's the weird thing with that bike is like, it's a bagless bagger. Like, you know, a lot of times like we'll post a picture of it on Instagram and it'd be like performance bag, you know, hashtag performance bagger. And then, you know, somebody's going to be like, well, how is it a bagger? It doesn't have bags, you know?
Yeah.
So
that dude's on his fucking shit break at lunch.
So, I mean, and it is what it is. Like, I get it. Like, it's kind of a confused bike. It's not a bagger anymore.
But there's a lot of people that may, you know, when we were in New York, me and Steve, we went up there, and there was a guy that rode from all the Clem Speed Shop with those guys that literally left his bags at home because of he knew how we were going to ride in New York. He's like, I want my bike to be as skinny as possible. So, like, I think it's like having that more modular design where you can kind of like throw the bags on or whatever if you want to run them or not. I don't know if you have it that way, but I could see that being a thing for certain people that want to set it up to where they can do both.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll throw the bags on to go take them, you know, if I'm going to go take a trip or some shit like that. But if I'm just ripping around town, like every once in a while, like I want a skinny bike. Like I want to ride something smaller. And I don't know if it's the fairing that makes my bike feel big or the bags or what it is, but, you know, riding something fucking tight and narrow feels good every once in a while.
Yeah, sometimes you want to just rip around town on something, you know,
easy,
a little smaller.
Not a Sportster though. Fuck those, right?
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, me too. I'll wait.
Point
I'll
the
wait.
camera at me.
We'll hang out. So you wrecked your Sporty?
Fuck yeah. It's not my first time.
Same bike?
No. Dude, this time, fuck, it's completely out of my hands. The whole way to Sturgis, I told myself, don't do anything stupid. Don't do any wheelies. Don't fucking haul ass. Don't peg it out. I did 75 the whole way, and I was just chilling, cruising. I got all the way. I was almost in South Dakota, and I was going downhill. It was pretty steep. It was going down and then right back up. And as soon as I started going downhill, I don't know if it was the wind that caught my bags that I had put on for the trip or what, but my bike just started wobbling like crazy, and it was all of like 3 seconds, and then I'm thrown off the bike, and I don't know what caused it, but yeah.
Is it dark?
No, it was
Daytime?
around noon. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but the other times that I've wrecked is completely my fault.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just doing dumb shit,
Sticking
either
off.
hauling ass, weaving in and out of traffic, or doing wheelie.
Yeah.
When I'm not a pro or nothing at doing wheelies. I just like to bang them out, like short ones.
Were any of them like real bad wrecks or just kind of like loop outs or tip over? Or?
The first one I was doing about 90, 95 down a highway. It was like 6 a.m, so there's a bunch of people going to work. And I rolled down the highway about probably like 100 yards.
Wow.
This one was probably the worst, though. Like,
Still messed
injury-wise.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. I've spent so much time defending Sporties, and I just keep
Wrecking them?
Yeah. I don't know.
We'll see. It's the bike's fault.
This time it was definitely the bike's fault.
Yeah.
All right, I'm taking a break.
The fuck do we talk about?
So,
I just talked about my wreck. So, how's work been going for you?
it's been slow as fuck, man. I've been with not being able to get the rubber trims for Simpsons. Like, it's like I'm working on them and I'm getting some of them done, but I'm like, hey man, your helmet's done, but until this trim comes in, it's just sitting here, man. And some of the guys have been cool and they've actually paid me. That way I can keep paying my bills until those things come in once I finish it. But yeah, man, it's weird how the smallest things can affect such a big part of your business. And going forward, like I don't know that I don't know. Like I'm definitely got to make some changes on how I do things because this is too big of a impact on things. And so right now, like I'm kind of living on. I just sold that FXR, most of it at least, to kind of pay a couple things, and podcast money pays for a little bit of stuff, and just trying to get through it.
Yeah, it probably would have been nice if which I know you're still working on it, but the whole T-shirt or clothing apparel thing, if the ball would have kept rolling after the camp out.
I mean, it was the plan, but I'm picking up some of the things. I'm trying to have a T-shirt out by the end of September, but I'm also trying to teach myself how to build a website to sell the T-shirts on, because I don't want to have to like sell the T-shirts through like a Instagram messaging and do PayPal. Like I want people to go on a website and order it, because it gets complicated doing shit that way, like trying to sell shit. All right, man, PayPal me friends and family. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's $30. And next thing you know, it's like, yeah, I don't want to deal with it.
What about the gloves?
So the glove thing, have you ever looked into making gloves for your shop?
I've tried. I've kind of ran into
a couple dead ends or
dead
what?
ends, yeah. It's still something that's like on my list, but it's like one of those things that always gets pushed to the back of the priority list.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, like, I love thrashing gloves. Mm-hmm. And so if, like, I can't get a thrashing glove with my logo on it, then I just keep running theirs. Because every other glove that I feel like I run with, the lightweight gloves, mm-hmm. they're the best for me.
I agree. That's what I run.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from, like, my moto background. Like, I hate thick, nasty gloves. Like, I want them, like, lightweight, thin. I have to wear a glove.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't have a glove on, I feel naked.
I used to never wear gloves riding unless it was cold, right? But when I started running the thrashing ones, I do enjoy it more because first off, you're not getting burnt. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And not that I don't ride and plan to wreck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know nobody plans to wreck,
right.
But like I just like I don't know.
Wearing fucking leathers and boots and
yeah, like I don't prep for a wreck.
Why do you wear a helmet? Because it's cool?
No, because of just the wind on your face, like it makes it harder to ride. Like, now don't get me wrong. I straight riding my stock Road Glide with the stock handlebars and all the stock shit when I got it back. It made me not want to wear a helmet when I ride it. It's just like A-Painters bring out that hell yeah brother in you where you don't want to wear a helmet. Like, and I kept wanting to turn up like Bon Jovi on the fucking radio. Like I wanted some loud music with, you know what I mean? It just it's so natural. Like I was slipping back into that lifestyle is what it felt like I was doing. But no, helmets, like when you ride with them, they just they keep the wind off your face. It just feels a little bit better. I have ridden more recently without a helmet than I ever have since I've been riding, performance air quotes bikes.
Yeah.
But Vans, I wear Vans all the time, even in the wintertime. I have thicker ones.
Yeah,
They're cold.
They don't protect shit.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like, I'll be wearing, instead of thrashing gloves, Vans slip-ons and a helmet. Like, but that's just what I'm comfortable in.
Yeah, and then you'll get yelled at by some leathered-faced dude
that
hasn't worn a helmet in 20 years, but he has boots on.
Yeah. Protect your feet, brother. Like, yeah.
Like, yeah. the weirdest thing is like when you go to different bike events. I don't know how it is up there in Utah, but like when we cruise the Strokers or something here, it's like you can tell people, like older bikers judge us or judge, like they're judging me the way I dress and the way my bike's set up. Like, oh, that motherfucker doesn't ride his bike. He's not into this. You know, if he did, he'd look like this. You know, like they have their own idea of how you should look if you
the vest with all the patches on it.
Yeah, it's Sturgis 1 through 50 and shit. It's like all that shit, right? Which I think it's cool. I mean, if I would have grew up in that time frame, I probably would have definitely been that way, you know. But growing up on sport bikes in the Harley world, like this is kind of like the perfect blend of what I grew up in motorcycles and loving Harley Davidson as a culture.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that, you know, when I kind of started, you know, like into the dealership world, like I kind of, like when I was in the dealership, I kind of felt like a little bit of an outsider because I was wearing, like there was times where I was wearing like a motocross helmet on my Sportster.
Yeah.
Like, you know, wearing my motocross gloves and Vans, but like the dealership more than anything is like the dude like in his brand new Harley leather boots and chaps and his vest with his, you know, loud pipe save lives patches, and you know what I mean, like all that. and they look at you like you're, you know, just some punk, you know, that you don't belong or whatever. And I'm like, whatever, you know. So like to kind of see this trend, like it's kind of cool to see like guys like you and all these other dudes around the country that like I can relate to. Like I feel like all of a sudden like I'm not alone anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and it's only been in the last, you know, maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, maybe. That's kind of come to.
There's a funny trend going on in Sturgis. A lot of the guys were buying vests and getting patches put on them. Like, you know, like just a regular, like fucking cut off, like the most Sturgis Hell Yeah Brother 2021 vest you can find. And then going and finding all the crazy like just buying, like spending stupid money basically.
Like just buying the whole patch box?
Yeah, just buying all kinds of shit and putting it like uncentered, like putting a big like center patch like off to the left and then just lining it up with stupid sayings and just like rocking the vest without, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, is this how they all became where they're at? Like, it's like we all made fun of it until we like tried it.
and then it just stayed.
It's like, man, I don't know. There's something about this fringe on this vest, on this blue jean vest that just fucks, man. And next thing you know, like we all kind of slide down the slippery slope into Hell Yeah Brotherdom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's weird.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah. It's so comfortable down there.
I mean, vests are nice in the winter. Mm-hmm. That's about the only time I
Do you wear a vest much when you ride?
I got a new vest this year, and I've been trying to wear it. Like, it's still weird. Mm-hmm. I actually have this, I've had it for quite a few years now, and I wear it a lot. It's like it's a leather, they call it a leather shirt. Like, it's a button-up, but it's like a baseball shirt, so it's short sleeve. Mm-hmm. Like, it looks like kind of an old-school baseball shirt cut, like no collar. And I dig it. I like it a lot because it's different, and it's just like, I don't know, my style has always been like wear something that nobody else has. Mm-hmm. So I wear that a lot, but I've been trying to wear a vest this year, but I don't know. Like sometimes I wear it and I feel like I'm trying too hard. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm just trying to look like the dude that is cool or whatever.
The kit.
Yeah. I'm
you know
like,
what I mean?
I'm that guy that's got the you know, the, what do they call it? Like the Dynabro package or whatever.
Yeah. I wore a vest for quite a while, but over the last like maybe year, I've just stopped wearing it. Like I feel kind of like you said, it feels kind of weird going into a restaurant or a bar or whatever, and you're the biker with the biker vest on. I'm like, man, I want to just be normal. And then like, you're like, oh, that's yours? I'm like, yeah, it's mine. And they're like, yeah, nice S. Perry's or some shit. You know what I mean? You're just some random shit that like, I don't know. Like, it's just, I like not being, I want to look like something different than what like the previous people on Harleys have been. Like, I don't want to identify, that's a weird one. I just want to have my own flavor, my own style. Like it's kind of been the, a little bit of influence of all the other Harley guys over the years. Like I'm not saying I don't like vests. I'm just saying like I've more often than not kind of chose not to wear one.
Yeah.
Because it seems like people are. I mean, the vest game's getting fucking retarded nowadays. It's starting to look like the Mexican boot game. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, next thing you know, it's going to be LEDs. Like, you see Jake Paul's shorts last night? Yeah. The LEDs going around it. Like, he had his fucking name going around in a circle on his... Before you know it, like, patches on people's backs are going to be fucking LEDs.
LEDs, yeah. Or like the Mexican boots that like the toes like curl up. Maybe they'll make like gator tails off your shoulders or something.
Dude.
On your vest.
I feel like I've seen that somehow.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably in Texas.
This is pterodactyl skin.
Only in Texas, I guess.
Dude, we get it. You know what's weird? I think I told this on the podcast before. I was in San Angelo in like 2011. This is kind of like I had an iPhone. I took a picture of this dude that had some boots that had LEDs on the boots, and it came around, and my picture turned into a meme. It was like that's my fucking picture, like with a cell phone that I just posted on Facebook like in 2011, and then it became like a joke meme type thing. It never wasn't like a famous meme or anything like that, but that's my story. I feel like I should find a way to make it longer. It's like that's it.
That kind of happened to me not too long ago. Everybody started using my face as their profile picture. It was
like legit?
Like an old picture when I was in like 7th grade doing ecstasy, and I was like fucked up. My eyes were real big. Everybody used it as their profile picture. I don't know. That's my story.
Ecstasy in 7th grade?
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah.
Start young.
I don't do it no more, so.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like we have our own flavor, our own style, and it's kind of influenced by, the dirt bike culture, the mini truck culture, the fucking skateboard culture, like so much more different things have kind of helped shape our flavor and our style than, Harley Davidson and Marlboro, man. Even though I love that movie, it's just not really, I'm not trying to dress like fucking. Did he wear full leathers in that movie?
I got one of those. I got a replica jacket from that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember that going around for a while.
Yeah.
See, when I grew up, it was all about the Biker Boys replica jacket.
Oh, jeez.
The yellow and black
the world's worst motorcycle movie.
Dude, I like it.
Hey, you don't say that.
Come on, man.
No, it was cool. Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I watch motorcycle movies and I'm just too judgmental on them. You know what I mean? Like,
I heard someone say this once. So I was working at this is like years ago because someone was talking shit about a TV show, and it was like I think it was I think they were talking about like Sons of Anarchy, right? So this is when it first came out, like in 2008 or some shit, and I didn't know nothing about it. And I was working at the Other Side Customs place, and one of the guys in there was talking shit about it, and the owner there goes, well, they have to make these things appeal to people that aren't bikers. Like, the motorcycle draws us in, but then we critique it like it's supposed to be correct to everything we do. It's the same reason why Biker Build-Off would always put in feuds and problems and American Choppers. There's a reason why American Choppers stayed on TV as long as it did, right? It wasn't because they were showing accurate ways of fucking building bikes. It was because there was drama. Because that sells that bigger market. It doesn't appeal to us as enthusiasts and shit like that, but Sons of Anarchy appeal to a massive amount of people outside of our direct culture.
yeah.
And yeah, we're gonna go on there and go, there's no way he could do all that. He can't shoot that Uzi in the fucking dirt road with no helmet on and his eyes aren't watering. Like, there's so many things that we're gonna critique it on, but I mean, it wouldn't be as cinematic if it
Well, I mean, but still, like, it's still hard. I mean, it's hard for me to watch. Is Biker Boys the one where like they peeled off into the woods and they're just hauling ass through the woods on their sport bikes?
No, that's Torque, which somebody named a magazine afterwards. But No, that Torque. They were fucking. What's Will Ferrell said? They're breakdance fighting in Zoolander. Well, so that was the scene. I know for sure. In fact, you can Google that. In Torque, they were doing stoppy fights in the woods around trees. They were stopping and slapping the back wheels, or they'd pull the wheelie up and hit each other.
What
Dude,
the fuck?
You don't remember that?
I don't remember
I never
that one.
watched that. No.
Dude, I feel like
I don't know which one it was. There's one where like all the sport bikes peel off and they're hauling ass through the woods, but all of a sudden they go from sounding like sport bikes to going like sounding like two-stroke motocross bikes, but they're just hauling ass through the woods. But it was almost like that there's a hidden road and it's like perfectly smooth through the woods. It's like, I'm just like, I can't watch this.
Come on. I don't know if that's the right one. Dude, there was this I'm trying to figure out how is it Torque Willie movie fights.
Yeah, I
Or
don't
Torque movie Willie fight.
I don't remember that one.
It had fucking it had Ice Cube in it.
Ice Cube?
Yeah.
What's the one with that had is it oh shit, what's his name? He was like the main character, like the leader of the club. It's got to be Biker Boys.
Biker Boys had Lawrence Fishburne in
Yeah,
it from The
that's what I was
Matrix.
thinking
Yeah.
of. Yeah.
No, that's a good movie.
No, it's not.
The funniest thing is like I kind of in sport bike world I was kind of in that culture of the minority bike club scene. And it was like that.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe not drag racing on a dirt road kind of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but there was a lot like the culture was pretty
It's pretty accurate.
yeah, the way it kind of
Are you
Well, like I never watched Sons of Anarchy, you know, back when it was on. Like, but I like working like in the industry and stuff. Like, I would have like friends or family that are outside of the industry and ask me like, "Oh, is that really what it's like? Is that really how the clubs are?"
yeah.
Like
I mean,
I'm an expert, but I'm like, well, no, not really. Like, that's
there's
all
no
made for
way.
TV.
I mean,
I'm
dude.
like, are there some like, is there some shit that maybe goes on? Maybe.
yeah, it's like Jax kills like 40 people throughout the whole movie. So
Yeah. I'm like,
I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but this is pretty ridiculous.
we can't play the audio because then it'll. Yeah, this is.
This is it?
Yeah.
It'll pop up in a second. She looks back. You son of a bitch. Oh my God.
oh yes.
She's like, "Where are you going, bitch?" I like how she didn't stop you, but she was
Look at this
sliding
one.
sideways. See, I told you. They're circling each other.
They switch bikes? No.
It's like Bell Brawl 2022.
Oh, here we go.
Like, if these chicks aren't in the Bell Brawl next year, I quit.
Yeah, like what are these stunt riders even doing? They needed to get some choreography up in that bitch.
Yeah. Synchronized stunting. Oh, she pulled her hand off the throttle, but she didn't slow down at all.
Yeah, none of their eyes are watering. Okay.
Oh.
Oh.
That is like
Here comes a switchblade.
I hate it.
boy.
I hate it for all the people that listen to the audio version as we're just watching this
Yeah,
ridiculous clip.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I took it off.
Yeah, that's how fucking ridiculous that movie was.
I've never seen that one.
Dude, if
I'll have to go home and watch it.
when that movie came out right when I bought my first motorcycle.
Really?
Or it came out on video. So I didn't have YouTube in 04 or maybe it was around. I didn't know shit about it. And there definitely wasn't like a lot of content on YouTube back then, but shit, when I first bought my first bike, it was like you had to wait for Biker Build Off to come on TV or a Motorcycle Mania or some shit. You had to wait. Like, you just couldn't go buy it or watch it, right? So the only other thing is, like, you go buy these old sport, like, movies, and I was into sport bikes, so I didn't want to go watch the Wild Ones or Harley Davidson, Marble Man, or fucking Stone Cold. I wanted to see sport bike movies. So I'm watching Top Gun over and over again for that one spot where he's riding the sport bike. And, you know, what was the Vanilla Ice one? Like Cold as Ice or some shit? He had a sport bike in that one back in the day. And I'm just getting too old on you guys.
Yeah. That movie was terrible, too.
Had a sport bike in it. Apparently, that's not the winning combination for the. That's not the bike to put in a movie to get some good shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how do we get on movie topics about?
We always seem to end up on fucking movies.
That's some good shit though. They're having their own conversation in the chat, I guess. Yeah, man. So what do you think, man? What's next with you?
For me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I got a ton of ideas, a ton of plans, but like sometimes I have to rein myself in because I get all these plans, but then I just, you know, like I said, like I've been saying it all night, like I get sucked back into this service side of stuff, and I got to figure out I got to be able to detach myself from that side somehow, and it's never going to happen like in the spot that I'm in right now. Because like I said, you can't get that creative side going. So like, I want to continue to build some bikes, you know. I really want to kind of get in this like routine of like kind of building a bike, like running it for a year and then like selling it. You know what I mean? Like kind of get in this rotation, like kind of like you were saying, like kind of build a bike up, run it, ride it, give it a year's worth of testing, sell it off and start over. And whether I do it like and sell it, you know, a year, or if I just like build a bike, put it up for sale right away, sell it, you know, start over and see where that goes. Like I kind of want to push that as well. You know, I'm still looking for avenues to like expand our own product line, you know, whether it be our soft goods, merch and stuff like that, or I'm really wanting to get into the hard parts game, but
it's a scary market.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what if, not to be doom and gloom, but what if they do come out with a new bike in a year and a half, right when you finish finally making the all new riser?
Yeah.
Right? You figure it out. And then they come up with this new shit, and so it doesn't work on the new shit. So it's like, fuck, man.
Now it's obsolete. Now you got, you know, $5,000 into developing a part that's obsolete now. Yeah.
It's a scary market to get into, man.
For sure, yeah. So, I mean, and and obviously I don't have the money to just jump in fully and just start making all these really complex parts or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like it would start small.
Valve stem covers.
Yeah. Yep.
Dude, you seen those dick covers that went around for a while? Those are pretty rad. We all had some of those. I still got one.
I saw a couple of them in Sturgis this year.
Yeah.
I spot a pink dick from a mile away.
No, the parts thing is scary, man. There's a lot of people that, you know, they get into it, and, you know, whether it's making risers or bars, because that's going to be that's definitely the oversaturated part. Yeah. Risers, bars, pegs, you know, floorboards. Those are very oversaturated, but they're probably the most universal things that you can make. They can go across many platforms, and that's why most people stick to those.
It's the safest area.
Yeah. You know, I mean, technically, if you were to make 500 sets of risers, you should be able to sell 500 sets of risers, right? Everybody needs risers, like every bike does for the most part. So, but if you were to start to get if you got a lot more deeper into the bike and started finding these things that you could make apart to kind of solve a simple problem, it would be very beneficial for the few number of people that need that problem solved, right? And that's where it gets kind of weird. Like, do you really want to, like, the subframe is definitely nice, but titanium can also be brittle depending on it. So do you want to put that, you know what I mean? Like that gets like a liability issue too on the same way. So
yeah. And stuff like that, like the subframe deal, like I say, like mass produce it or scale it up. Like, but I would, you know, like that's still one of those things. It's like, it's still going to be a handmade product. Like sell a couple of them a year type thing, you know, sell it for $2 or $3 grand, you know, stuff like that. So it's not like,
well, if the racing stuff takes off, then a lot of people are going to need shit like that.
Sure.
100%. You know, how do you think about, what do you think about, how would you do the new bike? Like, say you were talking about wanting to build a street version of the race bike. Like, what do you think would probably be some of the main things that you would probably, let me try to paint this better. So you talked about doing like a series of 5 bikes, right? For the street. What do you think would be your focus? What would you do it? How would you do that bike without like giving away the secret sauce? You know what I'm saying?
Really just kind of set it up, you know, like get like the riding, like the ergonomics of the bike, like your riding position more in a sport setup, and just try and shed as much weight. Get the bike tall. That bike's super tall. You know what I mean? Like even with like boots on, I'm like, you know, just 1 foot tippy toeing that thing. But that's part of like why it feels the way it does out on the street is the suspension that's underneath it. So suspension, but that, you know, does that hurt it? Because like how many guys are going to be all right riding a bike that they're, you know, not tall enough for?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it would be that, setting it up with suspension and shedding as much weight as possible, getting you in a position where you can really lay into a corner and get your body in a position to handle that, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I wonder how you would find that happy medium between being a street bike, you know, because I think that's what sucks is because most people are going to want to, they're going to want to ride it to Sturgis, or they're going to take the Sturgis and then ride it all over Sturgis. And I don't know, like
yeah, how much of that comfort do you take away by doing that? Yeah, for sure.
Low handlebars. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because you're trying, you know, one thing I noticed by talking to guys like you that's been on the track, it's like you want the bars close to the trees, if not on them. You know what I mean? And so you're trying to get over the bike in your positioning to be able to, you know, do it all right. Is that the right word? Just do it.
Do it. Yeah, just do it.
Just do it. Do it. Just do it. Do it. So yeah, like I mean, fuck, I'd go nuts if I had 8-inch risers on my bike, and that's still pretty tall for some of the people that are riding on the track.
Yeah, I mean,
you know?
I'm like my setup, like I'm running an 1.5-inch riser, and you know, 2-inch rise bar. Like I'm super low on the bars with mids, and I'm kind of really hunched over. So yeah, like it's probably not a bike I could go do 500 or 600 miles in a day.
You also took your knee notches way far forward. Is that because you were sitting so much higher onto the bike?
I just wanted to go as far as possible.
Okay.
And yeah, just give myself the room and kind of just, you know, make it as sleek as possible. I mean,
does that make a big difference, like the knee notch stuff? Because I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't know that it made a huge difference, like as far as like how far I went on mine, compared to like some of the, you know, more shallow or shorter ones. But I feel like it just makes the bike feel slimmer. Like you just feel better, like sitting on the bike, it just feels like a slimmer bike, you know? I went so narrow on mine that I had to modify all the stuff inside. The pump.
Change your pump and all that shit.
Yeah, I had to cut it all up and move it around so it fit in there. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff on that bike that probably wouldn't translate over to a street version very well. But I know that, like, but my plan would be to just make that bike as close to that as possible, but a street legal version. But I did have that same thought, like, you're going to take all the comfort out of it. You're going to make this bike you know, you can ride 100 miles a day without.
Yeah, it's almost like if you were to tell someone, hey, jump on this bike you know, and this is going to be the most high performing bike you're ever going to get on, but you're not going to have that feel of ripping with your buddies,
Sure.
you know, to the bar or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think I mean, I could ride that bike. I mean, I could probably go do 100-mile round trip and be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you start doing long trips, like cross-country trips, probably not.
Yeah.
So
It's like a sport bike. You know what I
pretty
mean?
much, yeah. You know, so it could be done, but it does take some of it away for sure. So, you know, that's an idea I have, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I have lots of ideas.
Like you were saying.
Yeah.
No, I get it, man. It's you know, I was planning on building mine for Daytona, or customizing.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna do, but basically, I'm just gonna force myself to rip it down to the frame, and just find ways to modify it so it doesn't look like so it looks like everything got touched, everything got, you know, something done to it in a sense, and just try to make. I haven't done a frame off in a while. Like that's the last frame off bike I've done, and at this point now, that feels like a different life. Like I don't even like it's been so long. So
How long ago was that?
that was 17. So, and then before that, I did frame offs all the time with big wheel stuff. You know what I mean?
You kind of have to with them.
Yeah. It's like you pull the motor out, and we do a lot of things to the frame to clean up the frames and smooth the firewalls out of them. You know, because the old or even the new ones, like the old ones only had 2 spark plugs coming out. The new ones have 4 coming out because they have 4 spark plugs in the inmates. But we used to smooth all that shit out. So when you would look in there, it was nice and smooth and painted. And then we'd bring like the paint job from the side covers around to the other side cover. You know what I mean? Just like cleanliness like that. And, you know, we'd always make like chin spoilers and shit like that onto the frame. And a lot of shit like that doesn't really translate to the performance bagger stuff. But also it's like I haven't necessarily had it sitting on the frame, like having the frame sitting on the lift and just sitting in a chair, just staring at it, like trying to envision what could I do? How could I modify this to kind of give it a different touch? I'm not going to really change the overall shape of the bike. It's still going to look like a road glide. But where are the details that I'm missing that I could do something here? You know, and that's kind of what I want to be at.
Yeah.
You know, definitely paint the frame. I'm going to do a custom swing arm on there, but I don't know whose. It really will depend on the look, if anything. Like I'm all about looks. I'm like 70% the way things look and 30% the way they perform.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm a visual guy, you know. And you know, sometimes when they look a certain way, then I feel cool as fuck on it, and I'm good with that. You know, like that makes me like to ride the bike.
Well, I mean, that's just because you're an artist, right? Like everything to you is like, you know, very visual, like, and that's just the way you look at things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't have a mechanic's mind for sure. You know what I mean? I do like things to work.
Yeah.
But how would you say that you like mechanically, like how do you look at things versus like when you like how do you look at it compared to the way I look at it?
I don't know. I mean, I probably still look at it like style is still like visual is still a huge part of it. You know what I mean? Like if it doesn't look cool, like who cares what it does? Like, but I am, you know, like super performance, you know, oriented, but I've never been the type to like just build like a bike that, you know, performs in whatever it is you're building it for awesome, but just looks like a hack job. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to try and make it fast, but I got to make it fast and look good. Like it's got to look good. It's got to have style. It's got to have a flow to it. Like the things have to make sense. Like there's got to be a reason behind things. Like when I look at a bike, like when I'm trying to build something, whether it's mine or for a customer, like my bikes, like I try and like pick something that I'm going to draw some inspiration from, you know, whether it be another bike or another style or another whatever. and try and incorporate like those cues into that build. So, you know, like when I did my Road King, I just wanted it to look like an FXR. Like that was my goal, is like FXR. The only thing that I didn't do that to make it look like an FXR is that I gave it a Road King paint job.
But with the popularity of the factory FXR paint jobs, it kind of, at the time, it kind of felt like it was still on that flavor, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it still has like, well, I still have people ask me, like, because that paint is a custom paint job.
Yeah.
But I told my paint guy, like, I want it to look like a factory paint job, but I just want it to be just different enough that the guys that know factory paint know it's not factory paint, but to everybody else it looks stock. Yeah. And that's pretty much what it is. And the reason I picked that paint scheme is like I took a Road King, like kind of as this Harley purist, like I took the Road King and I destroyed it. I cut it up and made it into something else. So like I'll pay homage to the Road King by honoring its paint job. Yeah, and that was kind of my thought behind that.
Makes sense, yeah.
So I was like, you know, at least I'll pay homage to the Road King that I just put on the table and cut open and made it into something else.
That was a good. I feel like that was like a good debut bike for, like, I feel like when you built that, it kind of put you on a national scale. Almost.
It did. Like that bike definitely launched me. And I mean, I think I'm still like super new in like kind of the bike building scene. Like I haven't been doing it for very long. I mean, I've been in the industry since 2004, but just at a dealership level, you know, and then I opened my own place. And even in the first, 4 or 5 years of my own shop, we were kind of just a local repair, kind of, doing some motors here and there. And then, I felt like the time was right. Like I had established the business enough to like start moving into a, custom spot. And that was like the first bike that I took and just built it with the sole purpose of wanting to show it off. Like this is what I can do. And it did. Like it just took off. Like everybody loves the bike. And it kind
of. What about the Sportster you were building for the V-twin thing? That got finished, right?
Which
the one you were building the frame and all that stuff
yeah,
for?
No, that thing's still sitting there in a pile.
That's when you were going against Brian.
Well, yeah. So and that was all my deal. And Brian's gonna talk shit because that's what he does. But
that's all he knows how to do. He can't even build bikes anymore.
Yeah, I don't think he does much of anything anymore. But yeah, like I started building that bike, and he was building. He was like in the early stages of building this bike, and I hit him up. I'm like, hey man, like, do you want to do like this little like build off thing? Like, we'll just like kind of promote it. Like I'm building one, you're building one, like kind of like make our own biker build off thing.
Yeah.
Like, and we'll just kind of hype it up, like, help each other out. And he finished his bike and he fulfilled his end of the deal. And my bike's still just a bare frame. So I guess he won.
Oh, there you go.
But, yeah, that bike I got hung up on a couple of things, and then just like always, I got busy.
Well, I feel like because that was going to be for the
that was
last year.
That was last year, yeah.
And then so you had Sturgis, and after Sturgis, like yeah, I can see how. Dude, do you ever get the post Sturgis blues? Like I feel like I'm excited to get back to work after Sturgis, but I'm kind of like, what next? Like what now? What?
Yeah, I guess I haven't, because like the last couple of years I've had like the Tennessee show in like September, October-ish. So it's always like, okay, like, all right, we got to get ready for that show. And then then I take a break. Like the last couple of years I've done the Mama Tried thing in February. That's one of the reasons I haven't really ever done Daytona, is I've kind of done Mama Tried instead, and it's only I think they're a few weeks apart or something.
Yeah, they used to be. Yeah. It was always like the February sometime.
Yeah.
And I think
Daytona this year was a little bit later, I think, wasn't it?
Beginning of March.
Yeah.
The very beginning.
Yeah. It's usually Daytona's usually like spring break weekend.
Yeah.
Right around there. And then there's been, because they canceled Mama Tried last year because it was in March. It was like the weekend before
Yeah.
Daytona or some shit like that.
So I didn't go to Mama Tried last year, but a bunch of people did, but they canceled the event like the day of it or the day, like the night before or something. And a lot of people were already there.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're already here. We already traveled, from wherever. But I didn't go. I had tickets. I had signed up to race, but I had a good friend who was in a motorcycle accident like the week before. And like shit just was a mess at the shop. Like, cause he died and my friend died. And so like, we were just like, nah, we're not going. Like, and then it all got canceled anyways.
Yeah. That'd be heavy to travel with all that kind of shit happening.
Yeah. And it was a crazy event. Like, cause I had just raced, the Roland Sands Mint 400 race in Vegas the weekend before Mama Tried, and we came home on Monday, we came home on Sunday, and that my buddy that passed away was with me in Vegas, and he came home, got on his bike, and got in a wreck and passed away the night we got home.
Oh shit!
And we were supposed to be leaving for Milwaukee like Wednesday. I was just like, I'm not going to Milwaukee right now. You know what I mean? So it was just pretty super heavy. Like, I wasn't in the mood to go to a bike show.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So.
Yeah, I mean, now it seems like everything's starting to kind of get back into the swing of being things again, like Daytona.
Like normal, yeah.
Yeah, like we just had Born Free, which it does kind of suck because Born Free being now kind of scrunches up this later part of the year.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, at least down here in Texas, because with Sturgis, and then you got Four Corners Rally that's literally going on. I think that's coming
this
up
weekend.
weekend. Then you had
I leave for it on Wednesday.
Yeah, so then you got Born Free. Then you got Jeff's show, which is I think the beginning of October.
Yeah.
And then we were expecting the Bagger Race League to be here in September, which was going to jam us up a little bit. And then we do a lot of camp out stuff. So we got our buddies camp out in November, and then Mama Tried. And then Jason has a show, the Lakeland show down in Florida. It's a pretty good event. And
yeah, he hit me up if talking about coming out to that. And I'm just like, I mean, I'd love to.
It's a long drive.
It's a long ways for me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out if I.
Man, we were talking about Daytona, and you kind of said it, wasn't your thing when you went that time. And my first time going, it wasn't my thing either. So I talked a lot of shit about it, and all the homies went this year, and they made it look fun as fuck. As far as, like, not riding, but just being around all the friends and partying and doing the events and the shows. Like, I missed out on that this year, you know what I mean? Which I'm just going to, for sure go next year and then see how it is and try to go in with an open mind and just try to let it be whatever it's going to be and not get mad if it's not perfect. Or I guess when you go to Sturgis, you kind of expect every rally to have that kind of atmosphere, and it's not the case. Like Daytona, there's not a mountain for fucking 200 miles. You know what I mean? You're not gonna get that vibe in Daytona. So you need to let Daytona be whatever the fuck Daytona is, that vibe there. So I don't know. I'm trying to just be open-minded to it, not get wrapped up in it. But too much shit to do, man.
Yeah, it's hard, like,
And then if they really start doing a lot more events and racing, that's a lot of shit for you too, man. Like,
yeah, just to, that's why I'd like, BRL, like, all right, like maybe in November, December, like give us a schedule for 2022 so that I can figure out, like, plan it out. Like, okay, like 3, 4, 5 races, whatever you're going to do. Let me plan it out so that I know which shows, because if they race, like I want to be there. Like I really want to be, like, if they do 2, 3, 5 races next year, I really want to do the whole series. So I'll have to probably kill some shows, to be able to do it all. But I need to know, like, before. I don't want to commit to shows, and then 2 weeks before it, BRL's like, yeah, we're having a race next week. You know what I mean? Like, that shit's tough, because, you know, you make commitments to, you know, brands or shows or whatever that you're going to be there.
Promoters of the shows and things like that. Yeah. It's a tough one.
And I hate, like, you know, if I say, yeah, I'm going to be there, I hate not being there.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I know what you mean, man. Well, cool. I appreciate you coming down here to do all this stuff, man. It's really awesome of you.
No, it's been cool, man. I appreciate you having me out. Like, you know.
Yeah. It's little Texas.
Yeah. Dallas is cool. Like, it's been, you know, it's been real.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody can find you at Tucker Speed on Instagram. And what's the website? All that?
Website's just tuckerspeed.com.
Go buy some shit.
Yeah, buy something.
Cool. All right, bud. Thank you.
Thank you.